if we.
non-public.
Yeah, if one of us want to enter into that, is that something that should be pre-designed?
You can just say the reasoning why you want to do it and then make a motion to do it.
Okay.
All right, welcome everybody. Time is now 6:30, October 16th for this select board meeting. We will open the meeting as we usually do with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And for the roll call, myself, Dave Hemingway, Chair of the Select Board.
Marlo Herrick?
And Norman D. Blake is unable to make it this evening due to illness. That being said, one quick set of how this all works. I tend to follow the school principle, so if you want to say something, go ahead and raise your hand. And I will usually try to get to you whenever the appropriate time is, instead of forcing everybody to wait to public comment at the end. We are being recorded and streamed. It will pick everything up very easily, including probably your side conversations. That being said, if any of you are having any issues hearing any of us, please let us know. We do have an audio system that will feed through the speakers to help it be a little easier for you to understand. But both Marlo and myself are known for being fairly easy to hear when we're speaking. So does anybody have any issues hearing us at this point? Does not look like it. I'm not seeing any puzzled looks either, so I will move on. That brings us to announcements. I'll make a couple first. The Clothespin Bridge project engineers should be reaching out to nearby landowners imminently, if they haven't already, regarding their right-of-way passages and similar deeding purchases. Second, budgeting is now underway and the CIP committee is meeting as well. So if you haven't gotten numbers figured out and you're part of the departments, now is the time to do it and submit it. For everybody else, warrant articles have not yet been discussed, but will be a topic soon as well. So if you either think the board should put a specific warrant article together, or you wish to create a petition warrant article for a particular item, please let our town administrator know so that process can go as smoothly as possible for you. Next up would be the shoveling announcement, so I'll let you go ahead and make that.
As far as the town office shovel, we have a position open here at the town office for someone to shovel the walks in the winter. I'm hoping I'll have a rush of people, but I'm not looking forward to that. Russ and I did it last year, and I guess we'll do it again this year, but there is a position open. It pays $50 for the storm.
And what is the time requirements?
I'm sorry?
Time requirement.
As
And
long
how
as
many times are you looking for somebody to come?
We're looking for someone
storm.
to come in if it snows overnight, you know, to come in the morning and shovel it out before we open the office. It would be the office, which is a very short walk because it's plowed. The majority of it is the library, the front of the library, the handicap ramp, and the steps.
Handicap ramp and steps.
So one storm? I mean, one per time, per storm?
Per storm.
I was thinking per storm.
And do they come towards the end of the storm or the beginning of the storm?
I would like to say they come when it snows and we're open and we
Okay.
need them, you know.
Well, yeah,
So
I
I
just-
would say
I
if
was
they
just trying
could
to
do
figure
the
out.
end of the storm, that would be, you know, ideal. Sometimes that's not possible.
But it's not per time they come, it's per storm.
Right.
And a certain amount of inches or anything? I just think that's important for, if you get somebody that would like to come do it, that they kind of know
I
what they're getting
agree,
into.
I agree. You know, I hadn't really thought of it in inches. But maybe I'll work on that and
Yeah,
come up with a plan.
But there is that position if someone is
So,
interested.
it would be a great job, I think, for if we got the right person.
yes, I agree.
And do I think that's a good amount to pay someone? I don't really know, but you certainly want to make it attractive enough to have someone do it. They'd want to be close by, I would think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm curious to know, what about the building being cleaned out on weekends when the building is being used by outside organizations?
That would be part of it as well.
And the people who are responsible for cleaning would be notified that the building was being used?
As far as the storm,
Yeah.
shoveling the storm, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just
I
asked
hear what you're
because
saying, yeah,
I've
yeah.
been here and it's not been cleaned.
Right, and that's been our problem,
On
because
many
right
times.
now it's not being clean, because
Because our staff isn't here on the weekend. All right. The next one, which I'm gonna have to ask for more information from you at the same time, is there is a public comment regarding the, or an open comment and feedback regarding some changes happening to the cellular tower or a cell tower project. Can you briefly mention when and where people may find out more information and or attend said meeting, if it is a meeting?
well, basically, excuse me, you're getting me out of order here.
I thought that was correspondence.
Sorry.
That's okay, I'm just giving you a hard time.
I wouldn't let it go.
We received a letter, and as soon as I find it, I will let you know what it says. 6. Received a letter for a proposed change to, I believe it's a proposed change to an existing cell tower that is on Pearson Hill Road. The letter that we received was they are looking for feedback. It says within the next 30 days. We just received this letter, it's dated October 4th. I do have a call into the architectural historian, which is his title, and because it is not clear to me what the changes are, I believe they're adding Verizon onto this cell tower, is what it is. I was curious if the makeup of the cell tower is going to change.
Right.
Which is what.
Like a Verizon Leaf or something?
So there's really, basically, we're just waiting for more information to be able to
Okay.
make a determination what.
Sorry,
it
I
is.
thought they had given us a time or a place for public comment feedback.
No, it was just.
My mistake then.
Just calling them or writing to them.
And lastly, I believe Russ has
Yep,
some.
that's me. As people know, we just sent out penalty postcards and letters. There were a group of people that received a postcard in error, and there's a letter going out tomorrow morning informing those people that they are not getting a penalty.
All right, and that is regarding the inventory and
Of taxable property.
self-assessment. Okay.
Yep.
So that should cover that. Are there any further announcements?
No?
Okay. That moves us on to appointments.
Oh, Dave, I
Yes.
think the audio's not working. I was hoping you could go check it out with me real quick since you know the system better than
You
I do.
don't think the audio is working?
Yeah.
Well, that would be important.
Yeah, it would be important if ours
I will
aren't
be
going.
right back, but our next one will be the appointment with Edison,
That's me.
or Edson.
Edison.
So come on down, and I'll be right back.
Come and have a seat over there, Edison.
Oh,
I don't think this is something I fixed down.
We're like the Price is Right.
I know. No, there's no prizes up here, besides us.
And you're close to the door if you need
That's
to
right,
get
yeah.
out quickly.
The Price is Right. Is that with costumes?
Oh, yeah,
Is
I
that the one
haven't
with
watched it for
costumes?
years, but
Could you clarify which ones were in error? He just says there was some in error.
The postcards that went out in error.
All right.
there were probably 40 of them.
Okay, so we do
So
have audio.
we could, I don't know which ones they are right now, but if you'd like, we could find out.
Yeah.
He's asking about how many were in error and who it was.
What's the criteria for an error?
What was the criteria for
For
the
the
error?
postcards that went out that said, I think you were saying that it was for
Oh, they're-
somebody being tardy on their inventory.
The wrong list for the wrong year was used. In other words, last year's list was used. and not this year's. And so it was an error, and it shouldn't have happened, but it did.
It did.
And so.
How about the issue of leaving it in the box and arguing about whether they're there on time? Because I've done this for 30 years, I've never been late yet. But we made the mistake of leaving it in the box.
The box is checked daily multiple
Well,
times.
I gotta disagree. Either somebody's not telling the truth or somebody's not being honest about what's going on. Either it's me or somebody up there. We put that thing in the box. It was dated April 14th. You can check. I've been doing this for 30-something years. I've never been late once. Never been late once on my tax bill in 30 years either.
So-
But all of a sudden, all I have is a dated form that says April 14th, and it's stamped the 27th. There's no way I dropped it off 2 weeks late. So I don't know how you prove it.
So I hear what you're saying, and we can certainly discuss that, but I want to move on to the way that our agenda is set up to start with.
So if I don't pay this, you're more than welcome to put a pet tax lien on it, go right ahead, which I might do that. So, but I think this is a kick in the teeth to people that, something's not right, and I'll never drop anything off, especially the tax bill. I just won't do it, okay? Well,
so
okay, you can slough
we're
it
gonna
off.
continue
I
on
pay
with
over
our agenda.
$12,000 a year in taxes.
You're welcome to continue
So you can-
discussing
you can
this
ding me
in
for
the public
$100
comment
if that makes you
section,
feel good.
since you're not on the agenda already.
I get it,
So-
I get it. So, I'm gonna go, so I don't wanna, I'm just not gonna. Let him put a lien on. That's the way I do it. This time I'll pay the $15 interest.
Okay, sorry about that. Where exactly are we with this?
This was, Edison received a letter regarding the idea that he was putting a driveway at his property.
So I can give a little feedback,
So if
Dana.
you wanna go on it.
I'll go on this. So I think it was about a year ago
Give or take, something
that
like
you
that.
put in a driveway permit, or that you had the idea of putting in a driveway permit. You would talk to the planning board about it, and then decided to withdraw the permit. I think.
A little bit off, a little bit different.
A little.
It
This
was-
is just my recollection.
No, you're not far off. So about a year or so ago, whenever it were, I applied for putting a driveway permit, right? And so then I was approved. And then about a few weeks later, it was then rescinded. I don't know if that's the appropriate word. It was then denied or whatever it were. And so, I had the right to be able to then, I guess, appeal it or submit another thing, and I decided to just be like, that's fine.
I don't think we ever approved it.
It was approved and then it was rescinded.
I think it was, I don't
I'd
know
have
that
to
it
go
was.
back to the minutes,
yeah.
but I don't think it was ever approved.
It was, from the planning board standpoint, I think that we had asked for more information, but there again, it's been quite a while.
No, there's no
It's
question.
been probably
So,
even more than a
It was
year.
been a couple of
and
years.
half.
When,
Yeah.
again, to my recollection, it was approved. There was a person that was not at the meeting
Yeah,
or the voting
that
thing.
is true. Yeah.
And so because of that individual, again, I just recall it was a man, I don't remember
Yeah.
his name. Something came up and then it was just retracted. Again, I'm not exactly the term, but it was denied in essence.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was given the right to be able to appeal that. And then I just decided to be like, no, I'm not gonna even bother. So I decided to then just regrade the property and not putting in a driveway. And
Right.
as I recall initially, when I was applied for a driveway permit, it was like certain square footage, right? It was like a 15 by 25 or whatever, there was a certain dimension that were attached to that as well.
Right.
And then I just decided not to because I realized I don't really need a driveway there. I'm gonna decide to opt to just regrade a much larger area because again, where my property is, I had to have it surveyed for wetlands versus high ground. So on the high ground area, I just decided to raise it up higher to be able to keep it more dry, if you will, and then went through that whole process. So the area that was high ground, I just regraded, so I didn't need a permit because I'm not putting in a driveway. I am just simply increasing the grading of the high ground. And so I didn't need a permit for that. So I was like, okay, so everything is, and then I got this letter several weeks ago that was, in essence, I believe, suggesting that one, I was putting in a driveway, I would need a permit, and then the other part was, seems to be like I'm doing other things on the property storing things, et cetera, and all those other things that are not permissible.
Think the letter has anything to do with the storage.
Well, there's photos attached to it and
So-
things of that nature, so.
Well, the
this is starting
photos
to-
just have to do with what appears to be a driveway, cause the
Yes,
storage
okay.
this
has
is
nothing
coming
to
back
do
to
with
me
that.
from the report, that
Okay.
basically the report and about the types of items that were there.
Yep, yep.
And being stored, for example, were things that they expected as, like, this kind of shows that it is being used as a driveway.
Right, which,
So,
okay, and then I
So-
responded with an
Right.
email, to just let
Yeah.
people know, if that gentleman, I assume the gentleman that was out there, if he had been out there a month earlier, it would have looked very, very different. So the grading is going on, beyond, there's a center point in that area, which I refer to as the sugar maple, that happens to be in the middle there, it's the only one. And so a lot of the stuff was behind it. And so in order to regrade that back area, everything kind of had to just be moved around. So there's a lot of just repositioning. And so whenever he had come on by and he had seen stuff that were being quote unquote stored on a driveway, it's just not really an accurate assessment. So things were just being moved around. And again, I'm not sure exactly what one would define as being a driveway. The original permit that I had asked for was a very specific dimension along the front end. The grading is going way beyond that area. And so, again, I looked at this as being regrading. It's sort of like splitting hairs to me about if I park my car in my back lawn, is that my driveway now? Like, so it's
so
kind of a funky.
the general, having been on the planning board before,
Yeah.
but not there now.
Yeah,
I'll actually address two things.
Sure.
One that may or may not have been a confusion point is that typically any kind of application gets accepted and approved as an application,
okay,
not necessarily approving what is being applied for. So there may have been some sort of confusion there. Don't know if that existed or not, but
Okay.
that's one thing.
okay,
The second thing is the way that a driveway is defined.
Yep.
There's an ordinance / regulation, et cetera, for it. But typically, the difference between I'm putting a path or something in my own yard versus I'm putting in a driveway
Yep.
is, does it meet and have a cut on the road? And so if it's got that cut on the road so that there's an open space and it's being accessed to and from the road,
Yep.
that's usually what transfers it into, I don't have a path on my property, I have a driveway.
okay.
Now, there are certainly temporary access things for like logging and other things that are different from driveways.
Okay.
But that's typically what will trigger that, is if they believe you're making a cut off of the road, that's usually what will be seen as a driveway.
So when I had first, I'm sorry, are you, can I?
That's
Okay,
good enough.
all right, so, the opening, or the cut you're referring to, had always existed there prior. So I didn't change that entrance point. That point had always been there.
Do you mean where you were gonna put it, where you're gonna need it if the driveway permit was to be, approved, where it dips and you would have to bring in quite a bit of fill, otherwise you drop down like this and.
Right, so
go over your
so you
property.
already were able to, have access in there, right? It wouldn't be really comfortable, like if you went in there with like a dump truck, you could make it in through that, what I'm calling the opening, if you're referring to as a cut. So the opening had.
Is that in the same place you wanted to put the driveway?
It was, and it always had been there. That opening, I didn't clear any, that opening was always there. So the only difference was the grade was absolutely steeper, that's true. But, so I just wanna be clear on
Yeah, I was
what
gonna
was.
say, I know, there's no way a dump truck would go in there unless you brought in fill and brought it.
That's right, so that's
Yeah.
why my point was, I was regrading the area, so in order to be able to get inside of there,
Now, how are you approaching your property with this regrading?
I don't understand, what do you
Well,
mean?
are you coming in that same place you wanted to put your
That's
driveway,
right.
or is there a place?
No, it's the exact same spot.
So how are you getting through that big dip?
We
in the-
filled it, so I regraded. That's right. So I think it might be, I don't know if it's semantics or not, right? So the idea was, when I applied for a driveway permit originally, it was gonna be through that same, what I'm calling, you guys are referring to as a cut, the opening. It was a very natural opening that already had existed there. So the only difference was the steepness of that grade. So when I had conversations about, well, if I was gonna put in a permit, which I thought again, based upon what David was clarifying, if it was an application, my understanding that I was approved for the application, I guess is the right term, and then it was rescinded, again, if I'm using the right term.
Well, it would have been like, they accepted the application and then denied approval of the driveway. Would
I'm
have
not
been-
really sure
I'm
about-
guessing,
Well,
but-
probably the fact that you have to have
but-
people go out and check a look,
Yeah.
like, look at it, so I think you're right, I think
but,
it got accepted and then.
I wanna try to not redo a planning board driveway session here
Right,
in
right, no,
the select
that's fair.
board.
So I guess my question would be is, what is the difference if one is regrading? Then is the difference that in order to regrade, if you have to fill an entrance point in, right? Does that automatically by default mean that you're putting in a driveway? I'm just trying to understand, to get access inside of there, then you have to regrade it, would be my term, right? I regraded an access point that was already open. And so in order to be able to get in there safely, and then I'm regrading a very large area, right? So I guess that's my question. My legitimate question is, is there a difference in regrading versus someone taking that as interpretation of being like, well, you have to regrade, that's called a driveway, and I'm going,
So.
that's my question.
The general, so I'm gonna use our non-present select board member as an example. Right next to my property is an old logging road / path that goes up into the back of her property.
Okay.
That has been used to do logging in the past. It is an access point, there is access to it, you can drive up it, well, a little ways before you run into fallen trees.
Okay.
But it's not a driveway, it's not used as a driveway, it's not used as an access point to the road. It would probably never pass as a driveway with a driveway permit.
It was temporary.
It was a temporary access for logging. Temporary access for construction is similar. So you would be allowed various temporary accesses to a property for construction purposes, such as regrading.
Okay.
The permanence and or ability to continue using it would trigger that's not gonna work because that's gonna be a driveway that you're using. And we've had some, again, going from prior planning board experience, and I'm not sure if you were on then or not, but there have been other places where, for example, they had a horseshoe driveway, but not enough frontage to allow 2 accesses to the road. And so they were required to permanently block off with, for example, boulders or a rock wall or something of that nature, the second access point of the horseshoe, because they were only allowed 1 driveway cut on the road. Trying not to get into all the details because we don't have them in front of us.
Yep.
And while we've been on the planning board and sits on the planning board, this is not the place for trying to figure all the minutia of driveways out. But what I would suggest is, based on your letter, which came in, I think, about a week ago,
Yeah, about that.
that said 2 to 3 weeks, that you would basically be done.
Well, yeah.
My suggestion for us as select board is we've done this based on recommendation from the planning board after having reviewed some form of complaint about that being there and being added as a driveway. So my suggestion is that we ask you to go back to the planning board with what is there, what's planned to be there, how you plan to block it, so that they can say, we don't think it's a driveway, and then everything is good at that point as far as I'm concerned. But we have several folks who are the folks that define the driveways and approve driveways and so on, having referred to us that an enforcement action needs to happen because a driveway is being put in anyway. So it would be a little bit odd for us to tell them, no, we don't believe you. So I would like to suggest that we table the issue and any enforcement while he gets on the planning board agenda to go through and explain to them. And I think the next one is this week, and it's probably too late to get on that
It's
agenda.
too late.
Yeah, so it would actually be next month's agenda, so you would be completely done with all of your work by then.
Hopefully,
And-
barring weather.
In theory.
In theory, yes.
So then you'd be able to go to them, and they could then send us a similar response to what they did for requesting enforcement, saying, this has been cleared up.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yes.
So when you're talking about a driveway specifically, right, are you talking about, so let's assume from the road into my, like, the area that was steep, that was filled? Is that what we're referring to as the driveway? I just want to clarify, what are we talking about the
Can you
entrance point?
clarify the
Like,
particular
that's what
point
I'm,
they were talking about?
that's,
So we
because
can
if you're
just
talking
go
about
back to what the
restoring things
definition
on
of
the
a driveway
property, I was
is.
just curious, like a driveway to me is, like not the access point, is that what we're talking about, like if you
Yeah, we're
close that off?
talking about the access point, a privately owned vehicular access way originating at the street and serving a single dwelling or, in the absence of a dwelling, a single lot.
So that's,
That's the definition of a driveway.
so the area from the road
Mm-hmm.
into my land, would that be like 15 feet or whatever we're talking
Whatever
about?
distance it is, that's the driveway.
That's the driveway area that we're talking about, so everything else is moot, it's just that access point?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I just built, just for this conversation, if I just built stairs on there, is this all this becomes moot?
I would, not knowing the full layout of it, but if that's no longer a possible access way, it couldn't be a
I mean,
driveway.
if a vehicle can't drive over it,
Well, I mean, vehicles could drive over stairs.
Yeah, well,
But
I
I'm,
mean-
but I'm saying is, I'm just,
Oh, gosh, I hope
I
not.
don't think it's great for the stairs or the
That's a little
vehicle.
much.
well, what I'm simply saying is, that if I put timbers down along there to be able to modify that grade, that was just stairs, that looked like to anybody else that you're walking on that.
Well, the problem is if they can be moved, then it's not really a block.
Yeah, there's a permanent block and then a not permanent block.
Okay, what does
So-
that mean?
So for example, if you're using heavy machinery to put down like boulders as a rock wall, that's a pretty permanent block, because you're not just gonna go out there and move it. Where we've also had people that have carried out a bunch of longer sticks and stuff that they've cut down in their backyard, said, well, we blocked it. And then a week later, of course, it's no longer there, because it's not actually a permanent type fixture. And so then it's, okay, you're good, wait, now you're not, we have to do this all over again.
No, I know, but if I put in like 6x6 timbers into the
It was
ground.
like, if the difference between before, if you put in concrete steps versus if you put in like little wooden steps.
Well, I mean, 6x6 timbers are 300 pounds.
I'm
mean,
I'm not
I'm-
getting into
Yeah,
the.
Okay, no,
I don't
but-
wanna go there,
No,
but
no, that's fair
probably,
enough.
most likely, yes, that would solve the.
Okay, I'm just
But
asking
then
because
again, you
depending
have
on what
the
you call
setback
permanent, like
problem,
even if I put cement
Stairs
stairs, I mean, I
kind
can
of
just go in there with a
structures.
bobcat and I can get rid of those in 30 seconds, so
But
I'm just trying to understand.
It doesn't have to be well,
Stairs or
it
structures.
depends on where it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So our stairs,
so yes, the planning board would be the place to like go talk to them, say, what can I do to alleviate this problem? Come with a couple ideas that can help you sort through that, and then they can tell us, yeah, there shouldn't be enforcement. That's the easiest way to handle all of this.
okay, so next question, I'm sorry to take up everybody's time over here, but like, so if I applied for a permit, and again, what we're talking about is the access from the road onto my parcel, is that, that's what I'm talking about, right? So not parking areas or all this other stuff, it's just this limited in and out access point, correct? Okay. So if I just applied for another permit for that, what's precluding, is that the easiest path? I'm just trying to understand.
I mean, I would say so.
I don't see a
If
reason,
that's
not
what you
knowing your
wanna
parcel, as long as you can meet all of the requirements for the driveway, like having enough frontage for the second driveway and so on
Well,
and
it's
so
not even a
forth.
second driveway, it's just the first driveway.
Oh, it's
It's
the
the
first
first
one.
driveway.
I mean, there's a couple
Oh, yeah.
things you gotta consider, it's like,
Yeah, there's
what I
like
listed,
line of sight.
drainage, line of sight. And then, I don't think it's gonna be over 300 feet, so you don't have to worry about,
And which,
and then
which,
grade, and grade is the only other thing you really have to worry about.
so what's the drainage and the,
Because the
and line
things
of
the
sight.
town are concerned about when it comes to the street is the damaging of the pavement. So since you're on a paved road, we wanna make sure the drainage is right, so that no runoff is going on to the street. and causing the town's paved road to get damaged.
Well, that would be moot on my section.
So that's determined by the road agent, and he figures out. So if you need a culvert, he'll say, I want you to put a culvert in, or this.
But Russ could
That's-
certainly help you fill out another permit
Correct.
application.
Okay,
and-
so based upon your knowledge of that, and I'll,
I mean, Emmett's the expert on that one, so,
The road agent.
yeah, the road agent.
okay.
So, do you have any other?
Nope.
All right, so I think this should probably be a motion since it's also
I have one more question.
Yes.
I'm sorry. So all the photos that the gentleman had taken of of my materials that are there, and the idea that then it is a driveway, has nothing to do with any of my stuff, if you will. Okay. Okay, I was
as
just,
far as I'm aware, yes.
yeah, I was just curious in why there was photos of it and all this other stuff of being like, it seems like he has this here, he has this here, and I was kind of like wondering,
Well, I think he's wondering how you get everything there if you're not
If you're not using it
producing
like a driveway.
as like a driveway, right? I mean, I would be wondering, how are you moving fill around, unless it's just equipment that you got in there, and moving the fill around and leveling out, as you're saying, and then putting stuff there, how are you getting your stuff to there? That's probably why they
okay.
wanted that.
Because I'm looking at it as a driveway, like when you park your car in your driveway, it's not the access point from the road, so I'm confusing, I think, the definition.
Well, I think
The whole
driveway
thing
and that is
the whole
an
thing
access.
Is counted, but in order to qualify as a driveway,
Yeah.
it has to start at the road. But the entire length of it is counted and is part of the driveway regulations.
Yeah, but not including the parcel, it's just basically the access point from the road onto the parcel is what we're talking about.
Yeah, so
That 10
the
feet or
access
whatever it may
point
be.
at the road
Yeah.
and all additional pathage for the driveway.
Right, that does count, but it's not for,
But you're not like on a large
the width
acreage,
counts for
so-
that, but it's mostly, at that point, it has to do with making sure that a fire truck can fit down there, or an ambulance.
Mhm. Yeah, it's like widths, access angles
Width,
and stuff.
and
Most
that's
of
why
it is at
we,
the road.
that's why we're concerned about the width, it has to be a certain width to make sure the ambulance and the fire truck can get down it. And we wanna make sure the grade's a certain grade, so that if it's in an icy condition, that the ambulance, we're protecting our equipment. That's basically what it comes down to.
Okay, do you know what those parameters are?
They
For
are
the fire
posted
truck?
on the website, but he should also be
Yeah.
able to give you
If you
copies.
can,
in
send
the
me those,
office.
that would be
Yeah, they're
great.
in the driveway regulations, it says what the grade is.
Okay.
It's like plus or 5% grade.
Percent, sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yeah.
say.
And then the width's there, I think it's 12 feet, it's like 12 to 16 it has to be.
Something
between.
like that, yeah.
Okay.
You think I deal with this enough to memorize it? I think
Well,
I'm
and everyone's
right.
a little bit different, cause it all depends on your site,
Right.
and what you need for that entrance and
Yeah, because
that
sight
swing,
lines and everything
yes.
else.
So
Also,
that
your
might be-
driveway shouldn't be that big of a problem, cause it's a lot less than 300 square feet. That's more of an issue in the longer driveways.
Mhm.
Okay.
So thank you.
All set.
I will try this and see how this goes. I would move that we table further discussion and enforcement about this particular driveway on map 10, lot 5-3, until such point as either a discussion has happened with the planning board or a driveway permit has been submitted.
I second that. With the help of
All
the
in
audience.
favor?
Aye.
Aye,
It was
okay.
the word searching.
Yeah, right, yeah, it was, yeah.
So I'm good?
Yes,
All right.
thank you.
Everybody have a great evening.
You too.
Thank you, you too.
You know, I'm curious about what you're doing. I'm gonna hang for a couple.
All right, so that moves us on to our second appointment regarding temporary occupancy permits.
Yes.
Come on down. I don't have too much information other than you had questions about it, so
Well, so I don't have an address yet, so it's on White
Okay.
Plains Road, coming from here. You go past Little Hill, where the division between the town and state maintenance of the road is. Got a lot there on the right.
You have some equipment there,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Yep. So, been working on, I went through the driveway permit process, and Emmett's seen it now, so I think we should be close to hopefully having the driveway permit wrapped up on that. I'm planning on building next year there, doing everything myself. I'm gonna be sawing out all my lumber and everything over the course of the winter. I would like to move my camper there and stay in that so I can get more done. I see that you kinda have to have a building permit going on, or to kinda keep residency while you're building. I was just wondering if there was any way we could do some sort of, maybe a little bit longer than the 90-day temporary occupancy permit, so that I can get over there and spend the winter milling the lumber, and then in the spring, when I can get back out and do a test pit and go through everything to get the building permit, fully rolling, and really have my ducks in a row for it, then I'll be ready to hit the ground running to build next year. So I was just I know that there's 90-day temporary occupancy permits you can apply for, and then I know that you can have a temporary occupancy while you're actively building on the building permit. But I'm just asking for a little bit of extra leeway here on the front end of it, so that I can get in there and do all the work ahead of time, and get rolling with the building permit in the spring.
Okay.
I have one question that you
yes.
might know. Is the building permit, how long does that last?
2 years.
2 years,
Yeah.
okay.
But it
I think
does
it's 2
say
years,
that,
but you have to pour within
6 months.
6
6
months,
months.
something like that.
yeah, and that puts me in the middle of the winter. And that's just not, that,
November, December, January.
You mean of
March,
well, April,
Yeah.
posted roads,
it's gonna be
blah, blah,
wet.
blah.
Yeah.
Good. We don't really want the heavy trucks going over it during mud season anyway.
yeah, so I just,
So, the point of having temporary occupancy permits,
mhm.
and I'll kind of go the long run, and please correct me if I get anything wrong here. The point of the temporary occupancy permits has a few things in it.
Mhm.
One is what's not gonna be a problem here, which is so that we don't end up with, for example, 2 houses on the same spot, or an RV slash mobile home along with a real home.
Mhm.
The second is so that we don't put anybody into a non-livable situation. So some of those questions would be, for example, if you're wanting to use an RV, is it winterized? How are you getting power, water, septic, et cetera?
Yep, I have a
The-
dug well on the property. I have just got all the conduit in, and Tom inspected the conduit for underground power. Unitil has inspected the pole to the meter socket. I think today they did, getting ready to backfill, so that's all in the works right now.
Okay. And then, and then there's also like trying to live on a property without having any sort of dwelling, because we're not supposed to be creating additional dwellings with temporary occupancy permits. Usually the answer to that is the building permit process, where we require that there's a building permit to show, yes, there's a plan to put a permanent residence, so you're gonna be allowed to live here.
Yep. Which I fully intend to
So-
do.
Mhm.
It's just,
And I've seen all
Timing.
the work going in there.
Yeah.
That's definitely a lot of work to get in there.
it's a lot for
It's a pity you
weekends
couldn't
and
use the top end of
afternoons.
it, but, and now correct me if I'm wrong, but the language around the temporary occupancy permits is that it's 90 days with extensions or for extenuating circumstances or something of that nature?
Yes.
Okay.
Basically, I just wanna make sure that, everybody's happy with being able to be able
Well,
to
you
do
don't
this.
wanna get in there, no,
and-
you're not gonna build probably until midsummer, it sounds like a little bit, maybe right after spring.
Yeah, I was hoping that if I could buy a little bit of time before getting the building permit, then
Yeah,
that would just give me a chance
Do you
to
have
get.
everything that you need to put in the building permit? Like, is stuff basically ready for you to do that?
The only thing I have to do is a septic design, and that guy's a little ways out.
Okay.
So I'm hoping, I don't know if he's gonna be able to get there before frost to do a test pit and all that, so.
So,
I'd really like to be able to just do that in the spring, or, you know.
do you have any other questions on this?
Well, I was gonna ask the whole septic side of things, cause, you know, with the, you know, with your camper, you know, with what, you'll have it pumped, or what?
Just get a porta john. Chemical toilet on site, problem solved.
Okay.
That seems weird that your septic guy is that far out, so have you,
It's a buddy that's,
gonna kinda help you with you, okay.
yeah, so he's
Gotcha.
fitting me in when he can.
Gotcha, okay.
Okay, so one of the things that I'll point out, and I would highly encourage you to do, because it will help further on down the line as well, is to get yourself on the planning board agenda.
Okay.
And because they not only look at this is the building permit, they will also do what's called conceptual.
They don't do conceptuals for building.
They don't?
Don't do either of those things.
Oh, okay. Oh, right, because that's only the driveway and zone, like.
Yeah, our driveway
Okay, sorry.
permit is worse than our, anything.
Sorry, I'm mixing things up because
You
I
pass
haven't been
that,
on
and
that
you
board
build
for a
what you
while
want, no,
now.
I'm just kidding.
So, I was gonna suggest do that, but, we try to do everything as by the book and policy-based as possible. But we've also been
Exceptions.
looking at the exceptions for real legitimate reasons. We, last year, had a similar sort of exception, though it was a fire that burned the house down and they were living in a mobile home while waiting to construct. And it was the same bad timing of I'll be stuck in the winter. And so I would suggest that the same thing apply there, where let's give them the longer temporary occupancy permit, but to only be renewed for continued temporary occupancy along with a building permit.
Agreed. So more or less what you're saying is that, you know, we'll give you the extension, but we wanna see a building permit. Probably by, are you
It
gonna
should-
give a date, spring, you know, after the roads are unposted or type of
Does
thing?
the-
We did 120 last time.
Does the septic have to be included with the building permit?
Yeah. We're gonna-
Okay. Or is it just a condition that septic has happened before it can be approved?
Well, we usually use the septic as the plot plan.
Okay, gotcha.
But I mean, unfortunately, our frozen winters aren't what they used to be anyway, so, I mean, I'm assuming by spring you can get in there to do the test pits.
Absolutely,
too.
yeah, yeah.
November, December,
Yeah,
January.
and it doesn't take once-
March is 150-ish days. So the double would be the 180, which would be April, which is spring. And that would be, renewal in spring unless there's a building permit happening at the same time. That seems, especially if you're moving forward through the whole process, then.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna be I'm milling out the building this
So
winter, that's the
you'll
plan.
have all of that ready at that point. Does that seem like that's perfectly within our bounds to do, correct?
Should.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're trying to, again,
Which I think is basically what we did last time.
yeah,
So, we need a motion for that, or just to accept it?
I think you need a motion.
Okay, I would move that we grant the, actually, you are actually asking for, and has he submitted for the temporary occupancy permit yet, or no?
I wasn't sure how to go about it, this is
Okay.
all pretty new to me, so
Do
I
you
just
want him
figured
to
this was the
submit
place to
something,
start.
and then you'll
So-
sign it at the next meeting?
Yeah, so why don't,
Because I'll give him another week.
yeah, why don't you help him fill out any forms, so just come see him in the office.
Well, it's not really a form, but that
Oh,
will give him
The
another
temporary
month.
occupancy permit, stuff.
Okay,
And then, when we have the whole board, we can remind that this is
I will
what we were
create a
planning to do.
permit for you to sign at the next meeting.
Yeah.
And that'll give you more time.
And that should be good.
excellent, much appreciated, thank you.
and
Thank
just
you very
work
much
on
for
getting
coming.
your building permit and the septic test
Yep.
pits done, I mean, septic design, once he's there to do the test pits,
Yeah, they're
pretty
going
quick, yeah,
Yep.
they're maybe within a week, I
Yep.
believe, so,
Yep, so he's, that'll work out great.
Sweet.
Perfect.
awesome.
Thank you very
Well,
much.
thank you for
Thank you.
coming in and requesting instead of just
Thank
doing.
you for trying to do it the right way.
The way I was brought up sometimes. But try not to always follow in your
Alright.
parents' footsteps.
All right, then, I will be in touch with you,
Yeah.
or I just show up at the next meeting, or?
It was 180 days is what you were saying.
Yeah.
correct? Okay, yep, I wrote
But
that
you're
down.
good, yeah, but you're gonna have something that, so this
Yeah, I'm
season.
just gonna have a 180
Because then we'll all sign it and they'll be
Yeah.
back.
And you'll
Yes.
sign it, and that'll be all good.
Okay,
And that'll work.
Perfect,
sounds great. Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
you too.
You too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that moves us on to budget presentations, though I do see that we have a public
Yes.
sitting here.
I'm just listening.
Oh, good, well,
Is there
thanks
any
for coming.
particular topic that you're interested in, or just for the meeting?
Well, it went so fast about the inventory sheets that I couldn't catch everything. Because we went from cell tower right into, and
Ah,
I didn't
yes.
hear the whole thing.
Are you, about the inventory sheets?
Yeah, I sent mine in.
Yeah,
I'll just do it real quick. I
Please.
sent it in, and I sent an envelope to send it back, which I got, but it wasn't dated.
Okay.
So
you just don't wanna get that little magical thing in the mail
I don't wanna
saying,
have to pay that extra money.
that's right.
So you might be on the list of the people that got a penalty that
Okay,
weren't
so I'll
supposed-
wait another week or so, and
So what, well, so how are we,
If you contact
Yeah, if you
Russ
just give
during
me.
Yeah,
the
you
day
don't
in the
have to-
office,
yeah.
he can tell you yes or no for sure.
Yeah,
well, you said there was letters going out.
Yeah.
tomorrow. And
Okay,
even if you have.
But
that
have you
with-
got one yet saying you owe more money?
yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
That was the issue.
Do you have
Okay.
the slip with you?
Yeah.
I don't, unfortunately, it was in a pile that, beside a shred pile, and it went through the shredder.
Why don't you take her name? and
Yeah,
that
can
way
I
you
get your name?
You can,
I
I
think-
have somebody that has left and right,
Mm-hmm.
and she took the round pile and put them through the shredder.
Yeah, so he can definitely take that down and get you a solid yes or no answer very
And
quickly.
can I ask who's in charge of that?
That's me.
Is it you, Russ?
Yeah, I'm the one who does it.
Oh, okay. Cause I know sometimes they have somebody up here that'll take your papers that
Yeah,
same
that's
day.
because I'm sometimes downstairs during the day, and then
Yeah.
I usually come up after, and then I hang out up here taking them, and then I collect them all at the end of the day. It's a,
And I know with COVID and everything got screwed up, and then,
yeah, it's a fun experience for everybody.
but
And-
they, you know, they go on Facebook and they blame this one and that one, it's
Well-
not fair to them.
Mm.
Why don't they just come in and say, hey, what's going on,
well,
yeah,
Yeah.
well, and I think as being a person that happened to one time. My mom, it happened to her too, and it happened to, I don't even know how we both made it happen at the same time. I think a lot of people are proud to get their inventories in on time, because it's kind of neat that our town still does that.
well, I think that's what George was trying to say.
Yeah,
too.
I can tell, and I think I'd like to have a discussion about with, and this, I'm just throwing this out there. Sometimes stuff happens, and it sounds like that's what happened here. People or things happen, make mistakes. In your case, it got shredded, and you're probably so like, darn, I usually keep that, you know what I mean?
You guys can waive it.
Well, hang on, and I'm not saying that that's not what I'm going to say. I guess I gotta learn a little bit more about the situation now. I've heard two people, and, you know, that gentleman,
Yeah.
I can feel his pain, in a sense. You know, he's proud to pay his taxes on time, he's proud to get his inventory in on time, and all of a sudden, there's been an error. Now, who's to go, who did it, and how exactly it happened, and so,
George is an accountant, so I'm sure he can.
yeah, well, right, yeah, so he's beside himself probably.
So,
but-
so I'll try to say this, and Russ can fill in more if he wants, but, an error happened, and so the error isn't actually making it so that people really owe. or don't. The error is that people were told they owe when they don't. And so.
But this jumped.
So that's what happened this time. The general what happens is someone saying, well, I sent it or I dropped it off or whatever at this date and time, when we don't have any way to show that that happened. And in some cases, we have ways to show that what they're telling us couldn't have happened because, for example, there's a postmark on something like a week or 2 weeks later than they say they did.
Somebody told me that they sent it in
Yeah.
on time, and it was, I have it postmarked by the post office on the 27th. And it's
So,
like,
weeks later.
well, the post office, says.
So
you sent it
things
on the
like that
27th.
happen.
But in the
but-
the case of somebody dropping it off, in the case of the fact that you can see how many, I mean, that it's not for somebody, it's not like when you lay it on your taxes and you get the interest and stuff,
Right.
or a fee for it, right?
Yeah.
Or you do, this is a fee, this is to try to get people to, get them in, so that we're not waiting around, it's kinda like licensing your dog, $7, why get really people, right? So you license your dog, but we all have errors. I think in this case, we may want to come up with a little bit better of something that comes out of the box down there. Who knows, maybe it was stuck on the bottom and somebody didn't see it when they reached in. I don't know that, you see what I mean, because the box is kind of a long one, right? Did it not get grabbed?
So the actual sheet, what happens to that?
The one that you're submitting, that gets filed basically forever with him.
Yeah, well, not forever, 3 years.
Oh, sorry, it's kept for 3 years. The original
It
sheet.
goes to the
And
assessors.
then it goes to the assessors. They all get alphabetized. I check them off on a list. And they all go to the assessors. The assessors review them, they come back to me. And then I wait until the end of the summer, I put in the penalties, and then I mail the postcards out. And
Oh,
then-
okay,
And then this happens.
So mine
Every
might be in there then.
That's why I always tell people, always call. Always call if you think it's there. Cause, I'm checking off 1,600 of these forms. Sometimes
Yeah,
I might miss a scratch, and I can always fan through it one more time just to check. And I can check through all the late ones to see if it was in that too. I'm always willing to double check and look for people. I have no problem with that.
cause I said, what happened to that pile of papers? And Jenny goes, I think I shredded them, Mom.
So let me get your name again, and then I'm gonna double check it.
Okay, it's Elaine Larry.
And to the other portion of this, the easy way to not have to deal with these again is to adopt building code.
Well, you don't have to. You can.
That's the easy way.
Well,
And I'll leave it there, and I'll probably have a straw poll, something similar to that at town meeting, like, do you want us to work on this or not, again, sort of thing.
I don't want you to think I'm ugly about it, I just wanted to check and see what the procedure was.
cause I can go downstairs and check with you right now to see if I have it. I mean, that's,
I can stop up, maybe Wednesday, I'm going right by, so
that's up to you.
I'll stop Wednesday.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry we kept you waiting for that.
Nope, that's fine. I haven't been to a meeting for a long time, so it was kind of interesting.
Well, thank
Have
you
a
for
good
coming.
night.
Night.
Is when you open the door, is the light on out there for you?
It is, I turned it on.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, so that moves us on to budget presentations,
I love budgets.
unless you had more to say.
Well, I guess I'm not sure, so I'm just kind of catching up. What do you do in the case of,
I mean, I have it, theirs here. I brought it with me. I have it marked, it came in April 27th, and I marked it, initialed it, and said Dropbox, as in, it was in the Dropbox. I checked it on April 27th.
was it like in an envelope?
I don't remember, it was on
Okay.
April, that's why I
That's,
marked, that's
no,
why
that's okay, that's okay. I just was wondering if, when you reach into something and something could get
But it's
stuck
checked
in there.
multiple times a day by multiple people, so it'd be really hard to miss.
Oh, it
And
is?
that's why it's like, I find it difficult to believe that nobody saw it in that amount of time in that small
Because they check it, the
Dropbox.
clerk checks it, the tax collector
Who checks it, Wendy checks it, Dana checks it, I check it.
Okay, well, I didn't know
Every
that.
day they're open. So,
Well. someone was-
possible, but highly unlikely to get missed.
But the thing is, I also wrote down when I got it, and I wrote everything on it.
Yeah, well, and like I said, this is not the first and nor the last, and,
No.
and generally the people that, except your reasoning, generally people are like, what? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And sometimes, when you get them, so, yeah.
And
What do you mean I'm gonna, okay, well, that's why we made sure it was
Well,
an
my mom was
announcement
beside
that-
herself, but she's an accountant too, so she's like, how did I miss that? That can't be
And
possible.
I feel bad when it happens too, because
Oh.
I never want this to happen, because I hate it when
No, I
this
know,
happens.
cause people, I think, genuinely want, just like all of us, we want to do what the right thing, cause there's no fee to it, so why wouldn't you?
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right,
I mean, you could see if somebody's trying to avoid
right.
$20 and then they just
And
cost themselves
usually
$50.
it's the
but-
same people every year that don't hand them in.
Right.
There's the same 100 and something people that don't do it every
Right,
year.
right.
And then there's a different 60 to 100 of people every year that,
Which mistakes happen
missed
on
it or
everybody.
just moved in and didn't know they needed
Yeah,
it or
yeah.
whatever, yeah.
Which, yeah. Okay, well, all right, I know a little bit more than I just did a few minutes ago, so, thank you. All right, go ahead, you go to budget sound.
Can we do budget?
I see you stomping over there.
It's his favorite topic.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
do like it. So this is the executive budget that I'm giving you. And first of all, I just did an arbitrary adjustment for the COLA for salaries, and I used the Social Security model, 3.2%. So that's where this came from. I think that this isn't all that different from last year, other than the changes in the salaries. And I've raised software subscriptions, because it seems that's, we're pretty close to what we budgeted. And maybe we could reduce the technology services.
You mean oh, I see.
Yeah, yeah. So it's 3,200, up 3,220, which is 1.84%.
Yeah, because we paid the, we paid the Microsoft subscription stuff through the contracted services previously, so.
That's right.
Whichever line item.
That's right.
Yeah.
And now it comes separately.
And then advertising and notices, because it's more expensive for the paper, I assume?
Well, I think that was the reason. Advertising is very expensive, and I love not doing it, but.
Okay. At some point in time, and the way that you have described using the Social Security COLA for a placeholder for the salaries brings up this topic of, I know that we have several employees that aren't employees that have stipends, whether that's over in the fire department, or whether that's the town clerk, or the treasurer and tax collector, et cetera. And we've been in a point where even us as select board, we've been at a point where we've basically tried to say that, like, the stipend stuff just doesn't change. But at the same time, we've had other positions where the stipends have continually changed in the past. And so, and I don't think we're gonna answer this now, but I want us all to kind of think about how, and maybe there's a policy or something else that ties into how that and/or employee compensation should be looked at not to just always use or have a separate COLA or whatever, but to kind of be accounted for, rather than, well, it's always 3%, whether inflation was 8 or 9%, and so was the Social Security COLA, or it wasn't, because for many years it was nothing or negative. So,
Well, I think what you're saying is that it should be the same across the board. In other words, all positions. And since I've been here, it's not been done very formally. It's been, for example, the clerk would ask for a certain amount, or the tax collector would ask for a certain amount. And the board would approve it. But I'm thinking it would be better if there was a policy, and I don't know what the percentage would be, and I'm not sure how it relates to the fire service. Maybe it's the same percentage, and as you know,
they split it up and do their own
theirs
thing.
is a very different formula for determining what each firefighter is paid. But certainly the base
Right.
could,
Because they split, the amount that's in the budget gets split in quarters, and then they use their formula for how that quarter's worth of amount gets split between
right.
them.
So if we did that, if they got an increase, we'd have to account for it in the budget.
Right.
Is what it would be. I could work on typing up a policy that you could look at and see if that might be something that can be addressed.
Now, is that something that you think makes sense to kind of include everything, or stipends?
You're trying to get it to be, I wouldn't wanna say even, but you're trying
I'm
to
trying
get
to
it.
make it fair, evenly done, and not
Yes.
controversial.
Yeah, oh, boy,
I
if
think
you
it would
figure
be-
all that out, you could be president.
Because then it's there, and the board can, yep, that's what our
Yeah.
policy says, because it matches these numbers, so it
Yeah.
makes sense.
I think it would be a very good idea as well to invite people that are involved in the stipends to come in and meet with you about that. Maybe we'll come up with a frame.
And I know at, some of the, like, we had a year where I think this was just before Marlo got on the board, or maybe just as you were, we had a year where we basically decided, yeah, no, but like, they're all stipends. It's hard for everybody that's a constituent, so nobody here that's on stipend is gonna take an increase. And then all of a sudden, 7 or 8 people, yeah, we never want them, we never want increases, we never do get increases, and 2 or 3 people caused a havoc over it. So, trying to avoid that happening in the
So
future.
that'd be a good idea to do something like that.
So, but yes, that's the,
All right, well, let me.
and maybe you just think that all the stipends should just stay the same, and that's fine, but,
That's the hardest part in anything. I mean.
It always is.
Yeah, right, I
Yeah,
mean,
it always is.
everybody.
but
Yeah.
that's my thinking. Do you think it's worth him looking at? trying to
I
come
think
up
that
with something?
I think you're always trying to find a way to make it as fair and as easy, like you just pointed out, so why not?
Because if you didn't agree, then we shouldn't waste his time on it, but,
Oh, you had to agree.
Yeah. Wait till I say,
Oh,
oh, that
thanks,
stinks,
Marlo.
take that back.
okay, anyway.
I don't know.
That was just what came to mind with that, so, moving right along.
Okay, so the next one is the financial administration.
Speaking about that money.
Right,
So again, I used 3.2% COLA. And
Can I ask this question? And I should probably know this. What is this COLA? Is that like a?
cost of living adjustment, yeah. COLA.
Kinda like your fund balance.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
The other items, I've left the audit the same because we spent a little less than that, and I'm hoping it stays with that. The payroll services, we're quite close, I thought that needed to go up. The tax collector asked me, as her part of the budget for that, she gave me that figure. The deputy, remained the same. Dues and I guess the other, that is mainly it's a $1,600 increase, of which, the majority of it is with the financial administrator's salary.
Yeah, it's like 200 and change is the payroll services, and the rest is
Yes, yeah.
stipends.
Yeah.
And I'll state, there's the generic 3% again, so
Yes,
now we already have things that don't necessarily match, but they're all placeholders at this point, so.
Next one is the revaluation, the assessing budget. That has taken me a few years to understand this budget, and I think I have it. Finally,
Go clap.
right?
I think I have it, so.
Without me and Russ yawning and falling
Self
asleep.
with the appropriate yawn.
Right, I know, I was
I'm a
over here
little
trying.
tired lately, Dave knows why.
So this budget reflects the recent bid that you accepted from CL Collier, no, that's, Comerford Neater Perkins. I almost said Collier Trumbull, that's not. The first line is the 1/5 revaluation. I mean, 1/4, the quarter work every year done to verify what people have for property. The next is general assessing. That I'm hoping will come less than that, but I'm just using their figures that they presented to us. And the known here is the utility appraiser. And that's up
Okay, so
$550.
the general assessing is like pickups and stuff, and the revaluation
Pickups and
of property
splits
is
and, yeah.
the standard every year payment, not actually revaluation of property. It's more like appraiser contract.
I guess we could call it that, yeah.
Because there's the 5th year, where it's generally the double payment year.
Right.
And that we have coming out of the fund.
We don't have enough for that at the moment, but that will be a discussion that we'll need to have. We can either,
I assume that would go through CIP over like, yeah, it's gonna be X number of years, so put this much in each year, but.
yeah, and I think we have actually pretty close, I should check the balance, but we do need a little more in there. We didn't put any in this year.
Okay. Based on what we may have coming for the transfer station, we may wanna keep it out of there for a year or two.
Any
Okay.
questions? The next one is legal.
Oh, everybody's favorite.
I raised that, we had, 2 years ago, I think we had 12,000 a couple of years ago. I think that's a good figure. Most of the expenditures that you see there are related to these houses that we sold, that we've had to do a lot of legal work, and it continues with the court's orders.
The ones for tax,
You had, these are the homes that, especially the Fisher home,
Yeah.
because now the court has determined that we have to do a better job in locating if there's any relatives. Which means we had to hire a person that does this professionally and has
And that
to
can
be
be
approved by the
costly.
court. And then there's the lawyers that have to oversee this.
Yeah.
And I have a bill every other day, it seems, and I'm just being.
No,
but,
been
you
there.
know, it's expensive.
It is.
If they do not find it, we will be able to keep the remainder of the money, which is almost $70,000. So, and we did make an effort in finding somebody, but none of us are qualified private investigators.
No,
Um,
I thought we only had, okay.
And then the thing that I always think of, like, if they do find someone, and usually it will be several someones, because it will be a family that has very different parts, so, I guess the lawyers would have to sort that out, and the court.
Well, I would argue that, even if we don't have that, a increase in legal makes sense, since we have overspent that line, and I would be surprised if we don't have a bunch of legal expenses coming in the near future from over Pillsbury Lake area due to code enforcement.
Yes.
So,
And included in this figure is some of that.
but at the same time, a bunch of that would also be what we would consider like exceptional fees. And that could come out of the fund.
Yeah.
So we just need to make sure that the fund is healthy. For context as to the 12,000, one of the reasons it was that high, and I think it was around 5,000 before that. One of the reasons it was that high was because of expected legal expenses for dealing with the solar project through Deer Meadow. And they would be reimbursing, but we would have to pay out of budget line
Right.
items first.
Right.
And the particular expert lawyer in that field that had been chosen is rather expensive. So that's another
right,
thing
yeah.
that may not be reflected in this, that probably should be. Or at least additional added into the fund rather than having to worry about it every year. So
Maybe
hopefully,
that's the way to do it, too, because
hopefully,
you don't know.
hopefully that gets referred into CIP whenever they're doing the funding, because legal is one of those things where it's not necessarily what you would expect. I think it's 5,000 is the limit, or is it 10,000 that they?
5,000 is the
5,000.
the minimum that you,
But it would be really easy to jump over 5,000 if something massive happened.
It wouldn't even have to be massive. You sneeze wrong.
Yeah.
5,000 is really not a lot of money in
So-
legal.
So that's why I think, as long as we make sure that the legal fund is healthy, then I think this is probably appropriate.
okay.
But, okay, thank you. Did you have any other?
No, and I agree with you on what you just said.
Keep the legal fund bill.
This one, Russ will speak to you about, and I'm just glad I'm not him.
You mean?
This is code enforcement.
Oh,
Yeah. I am suggesting we keep it the same for next year. I was expecting some things to come to fruition this year that haven't. Things that we may have talked about in Pillsbury Lake.
Now, something's puzzling me here.
And we are still waiting for one more bill. from
I have
Alabama.
I've got the wrong figure in the code inspection, that should be 3,000,
Oh, okay, well, I didn't see it before you put it up there.
yeah.
We also are expecting one more bill to come out of this for Tom.
Yeah, so if he gets it this year,
So it should be another bill for about, what, these bills are usually about 1,500-ish,
something like that.
which would put us on, what do we have remaining right now?
Well, I think that you've got 1,800
So, yeah,
or 1,900.
so I think what's listed in the 4,000 makes sense. I mean, hopefully we don't use it all, but.
And this is the budget that is offset by revenue,
correct.
you know, yeah.
So if we do overuse it,
I mean,
get
if you
more.
if you left it at 4,000, certainly there's no harm in doing that.
the only thing that isn't offset is, for example, when we go out on things for code enforcement, that isn't offset by revenue.
Right.
Mhm. But that makes sense. Oh, what's driving the decrease in septic review?
We just haven't had very many this year.
How much is a septic review on average?
$35.
Oh, okay. So, proposing 450. So we've done 650, but your proposal is 450.
Right. And I don't know if I told you, yeah, we brought that down, the septic review.
Let's see, so
Because
if
we
it's
haven't spent.
$35,
I think that is too low, though.
What?
The
Is there-
septic review.
that's 12 and change. It's not an even number.
Yeah.
650.
Because normally, when we get a building permit, we usually get a septic
18
plan per building
change.
permit.
Because you utilize the septic plan for your
So-
building permit,
Yeah,
correct?
so it's 18 and change for the 650,
But it's not all,
which was
sometimes
used
people redo a
this year.
septic,
Right.
get a new one. But the failed septics we can't charge for, that's a state rule. So,
What are you trying to figure out? How much is the 35?
I'm trying to get an even number. So 700 gives us an even number of them. It's 20 of them. Whereas like the 650 is 18 in most of one, and the 450 is like 12 in some, and
In that case, we just ask him to do half of his job.
yeah,
so I would suggest that we reduce it down to 700, because that's still 20 of them. It's
Okay.
lower because you're not expecting as many.
well, I don't know what's gonna happen next year.
That you don't know, really.
I do not know.
Where
Um,
where are
do you
you
know-
finding this?
That's the first line item.
Yeah,
This year
you have,
was-
you wanna take it from 1,100 to 700.
So they suggested, so we've got 650 that's been used
Yeah,
this year.
I got you now, I got it, Okay,
Yeah.
I was looking at that right.
This
Yeah,
year
rather
was
than proposing
slower.
450.
This year was slower on building permits than it was last year. But that could change. Building permits are very much,
And
Yeah.
you're happy with the code inspection at 4,000?
yeah, I think we have, I think that budget's on target. But again, we don't know what next year will bring.
Well, that's the thing you don't know.
Yeah. As much as I want to reduce this, this is also one of those where anything that's actually spent gets revenue.
Right,
Yeah,
I would believe it.
Um, Going to 25 applications puts us at 875. So, actually, what's the 1,100? 1,100 divided by 35. That's not an even number either. That's 31 and apart. So, I would suggest that we use 875. It's a reasonable number. It's gonna be more than enough if slow, might be a little bit low if everybody starts building and subdividing and everything else, but does that,
Sounds good to me.
what,
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what next year will
I mean,
bring.
you're the guy that sees them, so,
Well, first year I was here, we did 12 building permits, and then it went down to like 8, and this year we've done like 6, and it fluctuates.
So you're suggesting 875 for septic review?
yeah, it's still a reduction, which is nice,
Mhm.
but it's not,
And that one's offset by our revenue.
it's not gonna nail us if it's
True,
not.
but I also think you try to justify any number in a budget. 'cause
Correct.
You don't know, but in the flip side, our town is unique in the sense that unless like there was a big developer coming in that
No,
had
and we
everything
don't.
situated, which is not happening, cause we would see that,
Mhm.
then I say, go ahead, the 875 is fine by me.
I mean, I only know of, I think, 4 people planning. on
And you
doing
can't charge for ones that are failed, so that's
Well,
not,
and-
and that could be where you
yeah.
might pick up, like, oh my
Well,
god, 5
that-
people's septic failed,
it. Well, that's the problem, cause then we get charged, but it's not offset by revenue. That's
That's a difference then,
the difference.
but,
But, Yeah, so the 875 covers 25 of them at the $35 charge,
Yeah,
so,
I think you'll be good.
so that should be
I don't
plenty.
think we often do 25 in a year.
I can think of one or two scenarios that might cause that to happen, because there's maybe 2 lots that
I beg
are
your
maybe
pardon.
being sold and advertised as please go subdivide these, but I doubt they'd be able to be very easily.
Dave, I'm sorry, I gave you the wrong figure on that. It's 65 for septic and it's 35 for code inspection.
Oh, per
35
time?
an hour, yeah. So
Oh,
septic
yeah,
is
yeah.
65 per review.
And why do we pay for some of that when it has to be inspected by the?
Because one of them's per inspection, the 65's per inspection, it's
Yeah.
not an hourly rate.
Right.
No, but I mean, the state inspects when somebody installs them.
Right, but we have the local review too. I'm
Oh.
not sure how it all works, I just know the state.
Well, I
requires-
did, yeah, when you put a septic in, the state has to come out and then they
Yeah,
give you a
they
thumbs
want-
up.
They
So I'm not,
approve the plan, yeah.
well, no, they approve this,
Yeah.
the site when you're doing it.
Oh, do
So,
they?
yeah, they'll
Yeah.
come out when you're, building it and then they'll,
Well,
so I just didn't know why we had to pay somebody to do the two when the state's the one approving it
Well, it'd
already.
be good to know that.
I can ask Tom,
Yeah, figure that out, yeah. And then we could always come back and adjust it.
I
but
just
No,
know.
there's the state, I believe, please correct me if I'm wrong, the state approves the plan,
Yeah,
and then we have to inspect that the plan's actually done that way.
no, the state comes out and
Oh, the
inspects.
state does it too?
Yes.
Okay.
I know that they require our local approval for something.
Well, maybe they didn't quite require it, but when you're installing a septic, you have to leave it open, and they come in and they look everything over, make sure the pipes are going the right way and everything's gonna flow correctly, and then you're allowed to cover it up, but you're not allowed to do that until the state comes out and inspects it.
I'm just the guy who calls the guy to go inspect it.
That's right, well, I'm just telling you what I know.
We'll find out.
It's just
I
that I
will
can bring
call
some kind
Tom,
of
cause
knowledge.
he'll know, and
Or
Tom will
Dave,
be like,
bring it all.
Yeah, so that would be good to know. That would mean that my suggestion would be, if we're going to reduce it to 975, cause that's 15 inspections.
yeah,
At 65 per,
Yep.
that'll be tight, but I think that'll be okay.
So 15 is
I think
low.
15 is about what we do on a,
Oh, okay. So in that case, then 20 is 1,300, which is an increase.
I think 15 should be all right. And what was it before? It was 15, right?
the budget was
Before
1100.
The budget was 1,100,
Yeah.
and
We
which
spent
is
650 so far.
16 and a part.
So in other words, he's inspected 10,
Yeah, I think 15 would be fine.
he's had 10
And
inspections.
15 is at 9 something.
15 is 975.
Yeah, I say go with that.
I think
So
15
yeah, let's
would
set
be
it at 975. And still ask her question, because
fine. I think that'll
why
be
do we have to do that?
And there may be
fine.
one
I don't
other
like
thing.
odd numbers. I think 15 inspections makes more sense.
Yeah, because there's no point in having the extra if we're like,
Right, why do we need a half an
Yeah.
inspection?
right. Okay,
And am I right that the next line, the code inspection, you're recommending 4,000? That's
On
the,
the, right, well, I
That's
thought
the
that's what
hourly.
you said.
well, so previous it had been 3,000. Looks like the request is for 4. We've used 21, and you said you were expecting about 1,500 or so to come in, so that put us at about 36.
Yeah.
okay,
So the 4,000 seems reasonable to me.
just wanted to be sure.
Is that the way you
That's
see
right.
it?
Yep.
Okay.
That's if Tom gets his bill in before December, and if he doesn't, Wendy's gonna kill me, so. It's always a fight at the end of the year getting Tom to get his last bill in.
It's funny when you get to
So we
fight
have
over
one
a
more
bill.
budget left, it's the elections budget, and Mary Welch is gonna come up as soon as she closes.
So that's about a half hour from now.
Yeah.
Well, then we're gonna have to do a half hour of yakking on something else.
Well, we've got plenty of other things on
I
the
know we
agenda,
do.
so. Any further questions or comments on budget?
No,
Okay. And just because it's actually in front of me in the packet, at our next meeting, we should be looking at general government buildings. with our chiefs, the police and fire budgets, emergency management, and then other public safety, which I assume is things like the cooperative ambulance and stuff like that. So, that would move us on to old business, transfer station agreement and ordinance.
Okay. So as we've worked on the agreement, and I think it has everything in there that you're looking for. You had asked me at the last meeting about the ordinance itself. And I read through it, and I see that the septic waste section of this ordinance needs to be reviewed and updated. And I guess that I'm wondering if you are ready to go to another joint meeting with Hopkinton to work on this. Or how do you want us, would you like Neil and I to do something with the ordinance to update it first?
So, I personally think I would be ready for a meeting, but I don't know how productive that would be unless we have set changes in front of us to discuss.
Okay, that's what I thought you were gonna do.
I'll bring up the two things. I believe Craig's example for the day-to-day operations, which we all kind of agreed might have been an issue. I believe his example was, for example, us wanting to do an enforcement of stickers or something like that, but they didn't set that up or have that in their budget because they're in control of the day-to-day operations like that, and we're not. And so we all saw that as a possible sticking point. Which is an interesting and perfect example of one of those concerns for day-to-day operation. However, that specific example, glancing through the ordinance, and I'll just read what I wrote. Regarding the transfer station ordinance, while there's certainly details to look at for changes in the future, a couple items were interesting. The last version is only a draft and was approved by the Refuse Disposal Committee. It has lines to require signatures of all of the Hopkinton board members, the select board, but the town clerk for Webster. All of the hours and fees are included in the ordinance. So fee schedules, tipping fees, etc. is all in the ordinance side of it. How stickers and compliance/fines are handled is also in the ordinance. And so that would be, enforce the ordinance as written sort of thing, or change the ordinance for how it should be enforced. And currently that includes the septage, which is now an issue for cleanup of the lagoons. So those would be kind of the major points of interest. And of course, we'd want to look at them all in the processes. Are they actually doing them this way, or should it be changed? And they probably have input on that. Especially their individuals that are doing the job, which may be different from their select board's view of things. And so I would like to make sure that we include them in the discussion of what is happening and what actually makes sense, what's feasible to do when we start looking at the ordinance itself.
There was something else that me and Dana discussed that might be poignant. So one thing that we thought about in the agreement, or maybe in the ordinance, was when they hire new directors over there at the transfer station, does the town of Webster want a hand in the selection of those employees as part of that selection process?
Like an interview slot
As
sort
part
of
of the
thing.
interview process.
Is there gonna be a committee?
I'm not sure how they do hiring over there.
'Cause you
I mean,
guys
it's not
can-
an issue at the moment, but it's
So,
a
so
future
if there
thought.
if there were something that said that they hire by committee, then we may wanna have something in the agreement that says one or two committee members would be from Webster or something of that nature. If it's not committee, then maybe Webster should be one of the interview step processes. And of course, often everybody doesn't agree in those anyway as to who should be hired, so it's a data point, but it's not a direct, like, we do or don't approve it sort of thing.
I
In
think we
either
were
case-
thinking like maybe one of you might wanna just sit in on an
Sit in on
interview
it
perhaps,
and be
or
able to
something like
comment
that.
So,
on the candidates.
I would suggest that that falls down a lot to process. And so I think that would be a good discussion for you to have with Neil and how we could codify a fair process.
Okay.
Using basically their existing process, so we don't cause any overhead or strain to it, but that we can be involved.
So I was thinking in my mind that we're talking about the, and I'm not sure what the title is, but the director of the, or the.
For them, it would be
the,
Director of Public Works at this point.
Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about someone like Jolene's job,
Mm.
perhaps. I'm not
Facility
talking.
manager, something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, that's, yeah, I'm not talking about the people they get
Yeah.
for employees.
Yeah, cause it wouldn't be everybody, it would be like, who's in charge of this?
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I think that's
and,
how it works.
and I think dealing, like, I'm not gonna try to like impose anything on them, but at the same time, we do need some sort of say. So, and I'm sure the intent would be that they would just invite us to one of those. But at the same time, we've seen how well communication happens if it's not listed someplace that someone should do it. So I work with Neil and find something suitable to put in front of all of us for an ordinance. And then let us all review it, and then we should schedule the joint meeting,
Okay.
is my thinking.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, we should get this wrapped up.
Be nice. Then we can stop talking about this
Oh my
trash.
god.
It's such a garbage
This
conversation.
trash conversation.
Right.
Well, I think that this has really been a good process. And it's overdue, and hopefully it will help in the future with communication. And not that there's been, I'm not even suggesting there's been any sort of problem, I'm just saying
There
that,
has been so many problems.
you know.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, everybody from both towns is trying to work together appropriately to make an appropriate change. There's not like any blocking or whatever, so it's been refreshing to see, even when people don't agree on things, that things go and work. So that's good. Any other questions, comments, thoughts? Okay. Well, that moves us to the timber tax waiver in new business.
Okay, so that is a question for the timber tax cut that is being done on Dustin Road. So the question is whether we want to waive the timber tax fee for that, since it's being done for the town.
Where does the timber tax money go?
Conservation.
No.
Oh, I'm thinking I'm thinking of land.
They
Yeah,
get-
that's the land
That's
use
the land
change
use
tax.
change
right.
tax.
Timber tax is just a generic revenue
Revenue, yeah, sorry,
for now.
yeah.
There's been talk from a few people that
So this
they
is-
Yeah, I'm
want it
getting
to go
myself
to.
confused.
I'm bringing this up because the
Conservation,
DRA
but-
asked me about it, so.
Yeah.
Well, is it normal, and Marlo, I'm asking you, I think, really, but is it normal when you do a job on a publicly owned property, a municipal or state or something, that the logger pays the timber tax?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So like in the state fact, the logger definitely pays the tax because then the town gets it, not the state.
Yeah,
So if you own state land in a town, you know, then the timber tax goes to the town, not to the state. So that's a big reason, and that's why the logger signs the intent, because they become actually the owner of the timber, and they're responsible for that timber tax. So, and some other jobs that we've done is, you know, when you're in a town, you know, we've had to pay, even though they're the ones doing it, we've had to pay the timber tax. It kind of is up to, I think, the town sometimes. What made this a little bit more unique is, you know, that was a bid job, you know, which we're not sure of how the bid results
Well,
went anyways.
That is the other issue, in that I don't really have a, you know, clear understanding of how the logger's being compensated.
Mhm.
I think I can tell what's happening, but I don't really,
And that, I feel like that
and
should.
if there is and here's a question I would ask you too, is it worth enough to worry about it, or is it just simply moving a few trees so we can get to the gravel?
Again, it would need to know what the value, what his bid, the logger's bid to, I don't even know where the timber money will end up to begin with. Where will the timber money end up for the, cause
General revenue, I guess.
general revenue.
Yeah.
It doesn't say in the road budget, it goes to general revenue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because the budget won't get paid back by it, it would go into revenue, because there's
Okay.
no, yeah.
Okay. There may be a little bit more research that should be done to figure out and make sure that, it seems a little bit odd that it's town land. The road agent is an agent of the town, he's not the, you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I'm not quite sure,
Well, we asked him last time, or I believe, to make sure that Dana would have a copy of the agreement between them specifically to handle this sort of thing, and,
well, cause actually the rules and the regulations through DRA and the state is the actual contract for that, the town-owned timber should be with the town, not with the road agent. So you should have a copy of the contract. Yeah, you can get in a lot of hot water for that,
Because we don't have that,
yeah.
yeah.
So I think that may be what we may
'cause
wanna
it-
do.
yeah, cause it is under the road agent's purview, but it should be with the town, so we need to have a copy of that contract, which I thought we said before, but,
Well, yes, you did, and yes, I did.
so. I know
But I
he's
mean,
not
we don't
around to
want-
hand it to us right now, but,
Right. We don't wanna tax ourselves, is what we're all sitting here asking ourselves.
Yeah,
We
right.
just need to make sure that everything's in line to even know what the tax would even be,
Well, that's that, we don't even have.
So if
the-
we had a contract, for example,
yes.
and we could see how it was worded and whether it would be appropriate to tax the logger.
Bingo.
Is that right? Yeah.
correct.
Which in most cases, if it's yourself, vote. And sometimes in some towns, like that's why I asked where the money goes, some towns, this committee gets the money. So they're like, yeah, no, I don't, even though they're town trees, I want that fund
Well,
over
I think-
here.
I think I was hearing,
So that's
a lot
not
of
weird for
interest
you to
by
say
going
that,
to the
you know what I mean?
Conservation
Yeah,
Commission, you know.
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, but for right now, whether it's tax or whether it's paid for trees, it all goes into general revenue at this point.
Gotcha.
But it would be interesting to see if it's like, is this the set price, or was there a price adjustment based on taxes, expectations, et cetera?
Yeah.
Which should be in said contract and or bid.
I'm expecting that report of timber cut anytime now, so
Well, we will ask for the contract.
we will.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that really,
And I
that's
would
something the
assume-
state would be all over.
And maybe I'm naive, but I would assume that either party should be able to provide you said contract. So maybe requesting it from both of them would be a good idea to see where we get it first, since one of them is on vacation. Any other? Okay. So that moves us on to code enforcement.
That was
Or-
John Pearson. Did you, where are we on that?
Well, he came into my office tonight. He says he's still working on getting the building permit together.
How are we on our timeline?
Oh, you're over your time.
We're well beyond it.
Yeah, sounds like my life.
Um,
Oh, God, does time go by fast?
So,
We just had to make some decisions today, that would be
So-
why we.
Yeah, he was in on March 20th, and
Would you like to send him a reminder he's over
you
his
extended his
timeline?
permit for 180 days, so that's 6 months,
Mhm.
which means September 20th or so.
and he came in and we told him he needed to put in the permit. He was on the agenda and wasn't here. Was it the last meeting or the meeting before?
Last meeting, I believe.
Last meeting. So that's, as far as I know, where that stands. It is beyond time. Regarding.
The house is down, just as a offside note. I think maybe he told you that.
He
Yeah,
said
he
that,
did, yeah, it's
okay.
gone, yeah,
Yeah.
but the trailer.
Which was one of the reasons why Russ made the suggestion, well, just file for the building permit for what's there.
Right.
Because
But
our
in
building
any case-
permits are pretty, it's not like you gotta
Yeah.
go have them engineered and,
No.
yeah,
You
you
could've
can pretty much put it
filed-
on a piece of paper and,
Yep,
and then that way we're following our protocol
correct.
fairly for everyone.
So a similar code enforcement thing, because I think we need to, again, try to be as even-handed across everything as possible. At other recent meetings, we've had somebody regarding towing that was running a business in a residential zone without the special exception having been granted by the ZBA. They brought that to our attention, and so have they filed to have that taken care of? And if not, since they have brought it to our attention, it seems like we would need to do a code enforcement.
They have not come back yet. But then again, they also cannot come back until next month anyway. Because it was past the planning board
Oh.
deadline.
Is that
ZBA.
ZBA?
So, yes, it would have been
Yeah.
past the ZBA deadline. So they would have to get on the next month's
Well, they could have
ZBA.
still filed for it, though.
Not, they
They
have,
just wouldn't have been able to have the meeting.
well, they have until, if they were gonna be able to get on that meeting, let me get the deadline.
Yeah, but he's saying that they could have filed it and you could have had it.
Right, I agree with what you're saying. I'm just trying to get you what the exact date is that they would have until filing for it. So you know what it is. So ZBA for October is actually, I think it might actually be passed. Am I right? No, September, so it's October, I hate the way this is done. Appeals must be filed no later than October 18th, so we would have to have it in
By
Wednesday.
Wednesday,
by Wednesday.
Okay.
From the towing.
For the total.
if that one.
If it was gonna go in for next month's meeting.
Yeah.
So,
And what would it cost him to do that? Was it
I don't know what
250
the
plus?
250
what-
plus
whatever
$10
money?
for
ZBA
the
thing
letters.
is, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that something, I mean, we don't wanna have to go around reminding everybody, but would that be a nice phone call to just say, would that be too
can-
much for you to do?
Give them a call.
Yeah.
so my suggestion, and maybe I'm trying to be too easy on people.
Oh,
Um,
I'm,
My suggestion is that for both of these cases, since one of them has a couple days possibly, if they thought they were just gonna get it in by deadline, then that would be fine. And the other one has shown up in the office, at least starting to do some of the work,
okay.
that we have the courtesy call go to them that says if we don't see the appropriate actions that are required, we will be forced to do enforcement actions at our next meeting, and we could have letters for that.
And that's, next meeting's 2 weeks.
Yes.
Well,
No,
longer.
it's because this is the second one.
Yeah, so,
Is it actually 2 weeks? That would actually be 3 weeks, so
Yeah,
they
it's
get
actually 3
good
weeks.
time.
November.
Because it would be November 6th.
6th.
Oh, 3 full weeks?
Yep.
Dibs on calling
Oh,
Chris Chester.
God, holy cow. Then this is when I'm gonna get all messed up and not show up when I'm supposed to.
And this is where it's gonna put us off schedule with the payroll and the,
Yeah,
you know,
so you'll need to
We
stop
had a
by.
nice period where it was on schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
yeah.
Oh, well, it's all good that we're all so close, it's a
So,
good thing.
do you think that we should be more aggressive with it, or do you like that idea?
I'm more that way anyway, so
Okay.
I don't, I just like you, we're just trying to be fair to everyone and not. If they call it the good old boy, oh, you're good, but I'm gonna make you
Yeah,
do
right.
something different.
Yeah.
I don't want that. You know what I mean? But we can be considerate and helpful
Yes.
is what I
It's a
would
phone
call.
call saying you are beyond it,
Yeah,
this is what the
yes.
minutes said, you said you're working on it,
Yes.
we understand that.
We know
We're
time goes by
giving-
fast, but
You got 3 weeks, you gotta get it in.
yeah.
Whatever it
and
is
that,
you're gonna
to
provide
me,
us with.
feels very, we're being helpful, but we're trying to keep a
Yeah.
deadline,
And then I
right?
can just simply tell them, it's like, give me a piece of paper with a picture of a house on it, and we'll call it a day.
Well, I feel like you do a very, I mean, I've never had to work with you, so I can't say, but you're willing to help everybody. And that's, to me, as a representative of the town, makes me happy, because that's what we're supposed to be here for.
Yeah, because I come into the office somewhat often, whenever anyone comes in and like is asking Russ stuff, he's always like, oh, well, you can do it this way, or if you
Yeah,
have questions on
it's
this, I can
it's
help
nice.
with an answer, and so it's, yeah.
When you were here today, while I was answering somebody's a bunch of questions.
Mm-hmm. Yep, there's been a lot of that, and a lot of people have lots of questions when they have a question.
And I gotta
so-
call a bunch of people tomorrow for that person.
So,
Yeah. Cause I couldn't get it done today.
all right, so do we have anything else under code enforcement?
I don't think so. I think those were the big things.
Geez, Dana, you shouldn't have done all the, what was it, the trot, or what were you doing?
Something tells me just our luck, Mary's gonna give a difficult one right at 8:28,
With,
and then
without going into details, so we don't need a non-public, do we have any sort of timeline on when we may expect either more information or required action for code enforcement in Pillsbury Lake?
we would have to go into
Just that generically, do we actually know more of anything?
I don't, but
you do.
Okay,
remind me what it was.
so maybe there will be a non-public
I'm
later.
Yes.
just thinking it's not really non-public-y stuff. I mean, if we're gonna do an update on what's going on, I don't think it really.
I'm not asking for an update, I'm asking, do we have anything that we should expect to make a decision on?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, but not in the, well, actually, no.
No,
No, not
No.
you.
it's gonna
Okay.
be the Board of Adjustment.
It might
Okay.
not even be them.
Okay, that's fine. So.
We're trying to keep you out of it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Meaning us?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
But,
Or because
yeah.
I have some information on that.
Depending on what happens and the results that come in.
Okay. So maybe, but not really.
I'm
yet.
with you now,
You know what I'm talking
yes,
about.
So,
Took me a while,
let's
but-
go on then, and leave that in case we do want or need a non-public later, to correspondence.
Well,
See this letter that says the board sucks, sorry. It says the,
And while he looks for what he wants to say, we're used for correspondence
Yeah.
first, I'll jump in with one that I got this evening, so it may or may not be on his list. I see that, I didn't see the number, but Health Trust just sent us an email tonight saying that the pricing for next year's coverage is now available.
I got that, yeah.
Okay.
yay.
So that should be in our next set of budgety stuff.
I believe I've put personnel, when, it's in
It's actually
personnel.
set for first one in December. But-
Yeah, yeah,
But we'll have a number.
yes, you will. So, you saw the notice from the Merrimack County that we are going to pay them $625,561 by December 18th. And it gives you a little rundown of all the towns and cities in the county, what they're paying.
How is our cash flow looking to be able to do that?
Right
Especially
now,
based
we-
on our timing of taxes expectations.
Right now, there's no way we could do it. By December 17th
Why
and
do
a
they
half.
ask for it now when they know?
They're not it's due December 18th, so they give you a couple months to prepare for it.
Fun when it comes in.
But I'm hoping that we'll be having tax bills going out no later than the second week in November. Because we're down,
So we don't
I've
have a
heard
standard
this story
time?
before.
well, and of course, there's
do
so
we
many
have a standard-
factors that make up, it's out of our
Right.
control, a lot of it.
Oh, okay, cause I was gonna say, I thought, don't, and maybe I just, time, for me, time goes by so fast, but don't we usually have, don't people have a expecting time? Not that if we send out early, and that means that,
We usually, traditionally, I think we would have a tax rate about now,
okay,
and the bills would go out and they'd be due December 1.
yeah, okay.
That is not gonna happen this year. Last year it didn't happen either, because we're waiting for the school and the Board of
I think it's
Education.
been several years since
Okay.
that's
So,
happened.
there's so many things to put together, which we don't have a lot of control of. I think I was very surprised to find out that the new values are on the Avatar system. And I wish they'd told us,
Yeah,
so I didn't have to, because I was,
well, I was under the impression they weren't gonna do that until
I wasn't either. However,
we went live.
So is this accurate then, or is this using the new values with the adjusted rate? Because we're technically not done yet.
this isn't accurate. And it's not going to be, but they'll probably make up for it next year. So yes, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
It's always nice to get a bill that's not accurate.
Well, it's probably.
Are you liking it better than
Figure out
usual?
how much we
Well,
budgeted
don't
last time.
worry, they make up for it when they deliver it, cause it comes on gilded paper.
It goes,
Oh, if you've seen this bill, this is the bill to get.
this is the, it goes on the equalization, and there's a lot of factors that go into that.
What do they do with all that money?
They give us the
They run the
nicest.
county.
Yeah.
This is the county, they run the jail, they run the sheriff's office,
Okay.
they run the nursing
Okay.
home.
I'm also very disappointed he brought you a copy. He should have brought you the original so you could see the wonderful bill they send us on the finest paper you can find in the country. Delivered in the finest envelope that you can find, that money can buy.
Well, I told them that Marla wants to up their game, and she
They
wants the nice
perfume it
stationery.
perfectly. And when you open it, a little bit of golden glitter comes out.
When's
Just so that
when's it
you're
gonna happen? They're
aware.
just gonna email it. I mean, that's all we get now. We
Yeah,
get
that would be
email
wonderful.
everything. Now, I know everybody loves it, but I like to print, so everything gets printed, right? So I'm like, wait a minute, you get billed, and now you're paying for the paper, the ink, the time it takes to print.
I'm
And
of the
stuff
old
the
school
Yeah.
too, and it's really.
It's weird, isn't it?
I get tons of bills
Uh-huh,
now by
uh-huh.
email, and if you miss it,
Yeah, yep,
because-
yep.
you open up your email and you got,
Yeah.
48 emails.
I know, yes.
And,
And some people are much more organized, probably like you would be in your emails, not like me.
Yeah, but
Yeah, anyways, sorry, let's
the
get off.
48 emails is like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So, now, here's my next correspondence. I did get a bill from the town of Hopkinton, because I asked them for it, because I wanted to see if we could capture the money from the impact fee for the new trailer.
Yes.
So, I did get a bill from them they purchased the trailer. Oh, and I have the bill here. You might wanna see that as well. It was total of $90,000, of which our share is 22,000 something.
61250.
We had anticipated 25,000, so that's pretty close. And we had included that into our capital reserve program last year. Or this year, sorry. So the funds are there. We have one impact fee that is expiring on October 23rd, which is next Monday. We have a total in the impact fees, a portion to the transfer, solid waste of $11,360.82. I was asking if you would like to withdraw from our impact fees the $11,360.82 and have the remainder paid by the trust funds.
I personally see that that would be ideal, because then we would have more sitting in the transfer station fund, which can then be used along with what is appropriated, that'll probably be larger this year, towards the septage and lagoon stuff that will have to happen.
So if you wanted to do that, I would need a motion for that. And here's the figures. SW column 11,000 is the second to the last.
Okay. So, I would move that we pay the town of Hopkinton, reimburse the town of Hopkinton for our share of the transfer trailer, which is total $22,612.50, with $11,360.82 to come from impact fees, and the remainder to come from the capital reserve fund, transfer station capital reserve fund.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye. Can I ask a question going back to the contract for on the transfer station? And it's probably already somehow written in there, but in this circumstance right here, is there anything in our agreement that, well, I'm sure it is to be discussed that they're requesting a trailer because we have money for it, but that we'd be under the agreement that they didn't just get one bid, that they got 3 bids for something like this?
That is not in our agreement.
Is that something, is this trailer and this cost, to replace? I know it's probably in their budget.
Being that it's over 10 grand, I think there's a thing they would have to do, like we do, where you have to have either bids or quotes, but
wouldn't you like to be?
That should probably
I mean, I
be
feel like we're part of, we
someplace.
wanna be part about everything else, so to me, this is, of course, something I can wrap my arms around.
yeah, whenever we're talking about
Yeah.
bids or quotes
Yes.
for a particular job, one of the upcoming ones is of course gonna be in several years, rebuilding the recycling center.
Well, yeah,
Probably at least one member of Webster to be about.
that's what I guess I'm.
And
okay.
What should that?
Oh, I
look
brought
like?
something to the table.
How much of it should be, one thing versus another? So yes.
Marla, my job used to be so.
Oh, God, yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Is there further correspondence to
No, that
finish
was the
off?
last of the
Oh,
correspondence.
look at that.
All right,
Public comment?
well, we're gonna get back to her, no public comment currently. Do we have an edit just following up from last meeting, do we have an edit coming to review the sale of property policy? To add in requesting feedback from parties that would reasonably have input?
Yes.
Such as the chiefs, et cetera.
What did you just, can you, cause I wasn't sure.
The sale of property?
Yeah.
How like Emmett, why didn't you talk to us?
Yeah, which,
And previously there'd been a list for conservation planning
Yeah.
board. We should codify that in the policy.
codify that we'll have a list that they are
Here's-
able to
here's my
review.
Well, that
Question on
we
that.
ask them or don't, or
Yeah.
have it done periodically to a list or something of that nature.
One question I have on that, and the reason you don't have it in front of you is because I'm glad you brought it up. We have a policy for selling property in Pillsbury Lake.
Mm-hmm.
That's different than our other policy in a
And
sense.
Correct.
Right, yeah.
The other policy is different, so.
Well, they're both in the same policy, but yes.
But the Pillsbury Lake
Functionally,
one's the
they're
one, yeah,
different.
okay. So that would apply to both types of sales, I would
I would imagine so,
imagine it
yes.
would, yeah. Okay, thank you.
All right. So we can move back to budget now that we,
Mary loves budgets.
Have our additional
she's-
party.
And she has been really strict with this. Here is her
It's
budget.
been,
Mary, you have your sheet, right?
yes, I brought it up,
Okay.
thank you.
Jump in, Mary, if I don't mean to talk over you, but
No.
I'm used to talking, so.
I'm tired, so you go right
So we've got, this year, we did not have a deputy clerk, but Mary is working on resolving that situation. And it's very important, as we just saw earlier this year, that, that we get that straightened out. So we've left 11,000 in the deputy clerk's wages. The town clerk stipend, Mary has not asked for any change, so we've left that as it was in the budget last year. And again, that's part of that conversation about standardizing stipends. Election wages, you'll notice we're asking for 12,000 due to the fact next year is a very busy election year. We went back to 2020 and looked what
Yeah,
it
that's
cost
cool.
us
Am I out?
for 2020. I think you
I'm
have,
really ill.
you have a primary and you have the town, and then you have the September primary, and then you have the general election.
Yes.
And so I think that you're gonna need $12,000.
and probably 3 of those will be busy.
But they still cost you money, you know? The clerk association dues, I think this is outrageous, $20. We've bumped down the workshops, convention training, because Mary's so well-trained now, she doesn't need any more, but, as you see, we didn't spend, we had thought last year that we'd need a lot more training because of the new town clerk, and Mary just learned everything very quickly, and it was down, so, but we've left it at 4. The supplies,
So question on the training. Obviously, there's the required clerk stuff, et cetera. And Mary has picked up a lot very quickly. If there is to be a deputy clerk, how much of that would be on-the-job training next to you that you would expect versus they have to go to a training and get certified in some
They
manner
have
that
to
we pay
do
for?
the DMV workshop for and I think it's a 2-day, can't remember now. It's an online for the privacy thing, so that's not a charge. And so it'd be very minimum, because I just went to the convention this last week, and there's another 500 or so that needs to go into the budget, but I wouldn't have, some towns had both there. I didn't see the need to have both the town clerk and the deputy present. I would probably go again next year, and depending on if the deputy is same deputy the following year, I would have that person then go to the convention and I wouldn't go, that kind of thing. Because I don't see the need to have the entire staff of the town office there, and I saw some towns like that. I'm thinking, wow, that's an
we'll go with you,
expensive
Mary,
trip.
we'd have a good time, yeah.
It'll be great.
Where do they have, hold the convention?
Different places. It was up in Bartlett at Grand Summit
Yeah,
Motel in the Attitash area. Yeah, it was nice. But, and I got a lot of information. I
Yeah,
got tons.
that was
and
good.
Networking was great, you know, working with other people, but, so it's very, very helpful, but I just didn't see the need to have, like Bosquen, all 3 of them were there. I thought, that's a lot of money for
Yeah.
something like that. So, yeah, there's a lot that we can certainly train the trainer.
Okay.
Train the trainer.
Absolutely. So that's why I thought the budget could come down a little bit on it, even getting a deputy clerk in there.
And did you say that for someone to be certified to issue, number plates, is that what's done online, or didn't you have to go to Concord for that?
Yeah, then that's what the deputy clerk would do. She would be a municipal agent,
Okay.
yeah.
They don't, do
because
they
she would
charge
be-
for that?
He would be in my place if I'm not there.
Right,
So I need them to be able to do everything.
right.
But you won't need the avatar all day that I had, which was
No.
very expensive,
Yeah,
you know.
it was.
She was here, what, 11 hours that day, it was crazy. But, so I would be training her on avatar.
I'm sure you learned a lot in hour
Do you-
11.
My husband said, "Did you look up once?" And I said, "I don't think I did, I just kept the paperwork shuffling in front of me, sign here and sign here." And Patty was behind me in avatar, watching everything, and he says, "Thank God you didn't look outside, because there were cars lined all the way up 127. I would have panicked and gone home.
Yeah.
Here, Patty, it's all yours. Yeah. Thank God, that was a crazy day.
So then we have the clerk supplies. We had $1,000 last year. We've spent $374. I think you're gonna be getting dog licenses that is not in that figure. I don't know how much that is.
I just ordered some dog licenses, can't remember, it was a couple $100
Hmm,
for 600
we
tags.
left that at 1,000.
Yeah,
Clerk expenses is, and this is, the headings are a little confusing. Clerk expenses is the town clerk's mostly mileage to go to the bank.
bank, and then I'll put in for this last
Yeah.
trip. Yeah.
The next line that says mileage and supplies really should say supervisors of checklists,
Yeah,
mileage and supplies.
that's why you don't see anything spent. I'm not sure why they have mileage, but,
I don't know either, but I suppose if they needed to go for training someplace, that's probably why.
yeah,
And the supplies is really, I think
Paper.
I think we inherited this budget
yeah.
because in years gone by, the financial person would charge them for a ream of
Ream of
paper
paper,
and
yeah.
things
To
like
do the
that.
checklist, yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah.
I don't know why that's not so funny to me.
The departments matter.
Well, and we only take cash.
And they don't have change.
There's no change.
So a tip
sorry.
in there will be nice.
So the increase is the bulk of it, of course, is the election expense.
And we may not need all 12, but it's better to budget it just in case.
Well, you spent, 13,
said
almost 13
13
in 2020.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I based it on.
And we
And,
didn't
but of
budget
course,
that much.
COVID,
Yeah,
you know, what expenses for COVID, I suppose, but.
Yeah, and, well, so you said we spent 13.
It's like 12,990 or
The
something.
thing to keep in mind is you can't just look at that particular line item, because it's now a combined line item that wasn't that way in 2020.
That's a good point.
So if 13 was spent then, it probably needs to be higher than that now, instead of lower at
Well,
12.
we've added the moderator in there, of course.
Well, it gained the moderator, and the select board ones got put back in there. And I think one of the others was a separate line item before too.
The moderator was in the, I don't, for some reason, it was
Yeah.
in the executive lines.
So both of those two were separate before, whereas now they're part of that line item. So you need to look at what those were as well when you're adding them up.
Mary, do you remember how much you pay the select board?
I don't remember that,
Okay.
because I handed the paperwork into Wendy, and
Mm-hmm.
you'd have to ask her.
Ours is generally the generic amount that matches the standard election official that's here.
So
Which I think
by
was
hours?
15 last time by hour.
Yeah, how much was
I think it was 15 an hour last time.
Yeah.
That sounds right,
Yeah.
What?
$15
Really?
an hour, yeah.
Well, I think if
I think
you,
it's free.
and I know the
You
mod-
didn't submit your.
Probably not, I don't think I knew.
Well, a donation's always.
Well, that's all right.
Well,
Hey,
thank you for
you're
your
welcome.
service.
We take volunteers all the time.
That's it.
So
Good
I
thing she
think
was
knowing
training
the
us well with her.
moderators is usually comes out probably, in this case, about 1,000. Maybe 14,000 for that.
So, I leave it to put in what makes sense once you look at the numbers again.
Okay.
But yeah, obviously it's gonna go up and it needs to go
100,000.
up.
500,000.
Can we charge people to vote?
Put a little jar out there, donations accepted, tips accepted,
I think
I
there's
wanna
some
keep my budget
politicians
good, but
agree
you
with
people
that.
all have to vote.
anything's accepted.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, I know, could you imagine? Webster charges people to vote.
Is it this election? Is it you or is it D?
Well, I think it's me.
Is you?
Yeah, I know, that's what I was just thinking, we have a lot coming up.
So we'll
if I
see you
need-
again?
Well, yeah. How many times are we gonna be here next year? No, just kidding.
I already have you on the ballot.
Once you're here, you can't.
I know, right?
It's
All
written in
right.
But just so
stone.
they check in, but they don't check out.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to go over on it?
I don't think so.
Okay. So just because now that you're here, I'll bring it up as a topic again. One of the things that has been interesting in the past has been the dichotomy of some stipends never change and others constantly changed. And we were looking at trying to come up with some form of policy that would make it even across the board, kind of what should or shouldn't happen with them, so it would be fair for everybody that gets stipend. We're probably, I'm sure, not going to solve this today, but if you have ideas around that, feel free to either say them or let Dana or any of us know, so that as we
It's a
think
little
about
hard
that.
because
we can
we're
come up.
elected by the townspeople, so it's not like a business where you have a job evaluation every year, and based on that evaluation, you get
This.
Correct.
percentage of increase, that kind of thing. That's what I'm used to. Although the last job I had as a regional accountant for a nursing home chain, I hadn't gotten a raise in 12 years. No one did. So it's like,
Mhm.
I'm used to not
Right.
that kind of.
Well, and then once you figure out
So-
what dichotomy means,
Yeah.
'cause that's the first time I've ever heard that word.
Dichotomy of the two sides.
Oh, okay.
There's two sides to
Well,
every
look
equation.
it, that's
That's
right.
right.
Well, I think.
And I
we
died
need
in the
to
middle.
up-
What's that?
I think we need to up the stipend.
That's right.
The more,
I mean, I
the
appreciate-
more words that I use that are
you go.
impressive, the better my stipend.
Right,
I
yeah.
appreciate the thought
So
of the
we're-
increase, absolutely, don't get me wrong, I'm not dishing it. I just don't see that at this point, from my position, I need to change that this year,
Mhm.
maybe next year, we'll see, but. Certain field.
So, yeah, we're trying to come up with a concept and then a policy for
Yeah,
like, this is
that's a
how it
good
will
idea.
happen going forward, so.
Yeah. That's a good
that
idea for
hopefully
the
it won't be
elected
contentious
positions.
then.
Are you
Yeah.
thinking not only the elected, but those that are appointed as well,
So-
or hired, I should say?
Well, yeah, I guess some
Ours
are-
is a little different because we're employees.
Yeah, so you
And
get an
so,
evaluation.
Correct.
Okay.
And
They
they always get
usually
this
can
3% stuff.
you know, they usually, well, you know, the 10.5% that they've agreed to give me is really nice. But,
What's the
so we've,
cost
you
of
know,
living?
it's,
That
well, I
matters.
use the social security
Yeah,
3.2.
3.2.
And usually I go in and I go on the website and I look and see, and I thought, well, social security must have done that, so I'll just use 3.2. However, that hasn't
So
been
that's his
approved yet.
placeholder for everything.
But it's a
so far.
placeholder, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, versus, and we're trying to make sure that everybody has the, like, we do this once as a raise and it's both merit and or any COLA type stuff, as opposed to let's start separating and doing multiples all over the place,
Yeah.
'cause that just gets confusing for people.
And I think a lot of times working for a community like Webster, I very much appreciate what I get paid. if, I probably could make more if I went somewhere else. And fortunately, I don't need to. But, cause I can't even walk now, so.
There's all those
But I
dance
guess,
moves.
I guess what I'm saying is that, you know, I'm very aware of the stress that taxpayers are facing.
Well, and it's also different, right? Because, for example, Webster is the small town where, for the most part, things are pretty easy and you talk to people and, yeah, there's challenges and interesting stuff all the time. But, for example, our police department, yeah, they're busy. We've got a few of them and we certainly keep them busy and yeah, plenty of hours. But then you look at someplace like Concord, yeah, you can make a lot more as a police officer in Concord. Right now, they are requiring double time and night shifts out of every officer because they're so short.
And Webster's really nice because it's casual. The board is very good about if we have doctor's appointments and other appointments or something like that. And I don't really think anyone takes advantage of that. But the small, what I like is that you do a little bit of everything. I've had jobs that it's a bigger place, so you only do part of something. Or you don't really see what happens. You start it off and then send it off to someone else and hope they do it the way you'd like them to. But,
Oh, that
which
always
sometimes
goes
happens and
perfectly.
sometimes doesn't. But, so I guess that's, so that was the end of our budgets for,
All right. Since we get the rare appearance from the clerk, is there anything else you would like to cover while you're here?
Free lunch? No.
Listen, I'm not going up on my salary, but a cheeseburger, you know?
I go home for lunch and my husband brings me supper, so life is good.
Good.
Life is good, thank you.
well, and I've said this before, but this was quite a year, with a new town clerk. And I think it made us all realize how important that position is. And, we got through it, and, it's getting better.
Yeah?
Yeah. You know, I've never had a town, I've always thought when I left a town that there'd be a sign that said closed. But you know what, they keep going.
Oh, we're the first ones that did it?
We're all replaceable, that's for sure.
Just not always easy to get that placement. I've been going through that much, but it does get better.
So I'll be on the search for a deputy soon. Hope to have in place to help out with the elections, that kind of thing, just to shadow me.
I know it's listed as deputy, and I know there's a difference between deputy and assistant.
Assistant doesn't have to live in
Are
town.
you open to assistant, or must it be a deputy?
I would prefer a deputy only because if I'm not present, if I'm out ill or on a vacation, then I don't have to close the office, the deputy could do all transactions. Or an assistant, I believe, is limited to what they can do with DMV.
Okay,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah, so,
What an interesting rule.
yeah.
I mean, not that,
Yeah.
to take away from that, I don't think it's neat that you work in your town, blah, 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 but I think of everything, when you go into the state, they're not all from Concord or your
No.
town, you know, it's just this interesting.
Well, and
They
half the
have a
time they tell you to
limitation
go to
to what they
Concord for
have
the
access
DMV
to.
anyway.
Yeah,
What they can do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
huh,
Well, it comes down from years and years old.
But I
you
would
know.
train for the vital statistics, I would train for that, dog licensing, all of that, so that can all come from me, so,
Sweet,
yeah,
thank you very much.
thank you. That's a wrap.
that's a wrap.
That moves us on to public comment,
Okay.
of which there aren't any.
Oh, no, it does sound like we're gonna spend a lot of
those
time
minutes
next year.
Yes, we'll
Still
see you
here.
several times next year. For a long time each day.
Yeah. See you, Mary.
So that moves us to motions and approvals. starts with the draft minutes.
So do you have a giant motion for them?
Yeah,
Do you
of course I do.
have any comments, or were you look at the minutes from the last one?
The only thing is, I guess when we were stating about us selling of the property, and I think we kinda went over that, but I guess I still look at it as, I think you kinda said that I was open to, whatever, making sure everybody knows. I guess I just think that I wanna say that I meant what, if it was Mr. Strood, it's just, I don't see the vitalness that if there's a list of properties that, I don't know how much we have to go to the links of notifying people. I think that, when we take a property, it's quite a process, right? And in that process, and how many is there really that, how long is this list? I'm just not sure that I think I kind of felt that I didn't really say that. I was really trying to say, go look at the list. If you got a problem, we'll listen to a situation. I suppose anybody,
Well, I think,
even a next door neighbor, correct? They have the right to come in and say, hey,
if you're talking about the properties that really we should be mindful of, as far as maybe we need it for drainage, or maybe we need it for something else,
Right.
we should have a list, and
Right.
we have the list that the select board and the conservation commission went over
And
several
planning.
years ago now.
And
I
the
mean,
planning board?
And the
Yeah.
planning board. But these issues have cropped up that no one really was aware
yeah,
of. So, again, I think it would be good to have our town properties, pass it around to our department heads and say, these are properties, do you know of anything, any
perfect,
reason
yeah,
of something we should be aware of?
right.
And then it's easy enough when we take another one, and we hope we never take another one
That's
ever.
right.
But if we did, do the same process.
Yeah.
So,
But it's more of like, you're not, oh, by the way, you gotta get out of there right now and look at that. It's just, hey, these are the ones that are coming up. If there's anything to do with the roads or something, let us know.
because many times what's happened was, this was discussed maybe in 2012, and, it gets lost.
Now, just, this isn't for minutes, but, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't this the property that we were waiting for him to cut the trees and clear the sightline before we put it up for sale, specifically for that reason?
No, that was the cabin.
Oh, that was the cabin itself.
That was the next door property.
Okay.
I thought,
No,
aren't
I
we-
thought he was.
Yeah, no, we're right on the
No.
corner.
You
Yeah,
probably cut all
I
of it.
think it was.
Yeah, 'cause
The
we-
cabin plus,
So,
yeah.
maybe that was my mistake in thinking that we already had done everything that we needed to because we were waiting for that, but, in any
Well, neither
case,
do I, Russ, so join the club.
Hey, don't worry, I've had my day.
trying to remember or remember differently doesn't really matter
Nope.
at this point.
I just think on the go forward, that's a
Yeah.
good way to do
Yeah.
it.
So that's why I think that the policy makes
As long
sense.
as we have a better.
Did you have
process.
any comments for changes or other questions or remembrances from it?
No, you won't ever find me finding a spelling mistake, so don't even ask.
So you don't want me to change anything in that section?
No, I think maybe I'm even reading it a little bit too, I think we got this understanding that I don't think it's a bad idea, I just,
Yeah.
it's not like we're gonna go show around or,
Yeah,
yeah,
So we need a
I don't
motion.
think we need to make a huge deal out of it.
no.
But I want to. Oh, Dave's looking for the spelling errors.
No, I was just reading that paragraph again, and it was just his concern, and the board felt the possible solution would be to amend the policy.
And I think when
to
I-
consult, and I
Yeah.
think that makes sense.
Yeah, all right, fair enough.
All right, so I would move that we accept the minutes from October 2nd. Was it October 2nd? Yes. I move that we accept the minutes from October 2nd as written.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
So the other things I have for you are signatures that I need. Visa has been paid again,
Ooh, our wonderful visa.
so I've included all the bills in the event you'd like to memorize them.
Yes, please.
Oh, and I meant to bring up the other bills, but I can go get them if you need them.
The pens are multiple.
Then we have the payroll and the manifest.
Pay stuff. Pay stuff. And visas. Oh my goodness, there's a $14 charge. And yeah, all stuff. Oh, yes. The wonderfulness of Unitil. Is that still working itself out
Yeah,
as you expect now?
Yeah, it's working the Unitil way, if you know what I'm saying.
But at least we figured it out and expect it this way now.
Yeah, yeah, it's actually working out pretty well.
That's right.
Yeah. So you don't have the backup to those, you just
I
have
don't,
okay.
but if you'd like, I can go get them.
Tax
Is there any particular
names.
one you'd like to see?
No, I'm probably fine.
What was the one for Chappelle Tractor?
That's a
Chapel.
rental for,
Sorry, Chapel.
That would've been-
Oh, that was the rental,
it's a rental that Emmett did for,
Yes, for
Okay.
the,
you know,
the pound rate.
Yeah.
Gotcha, yeah, perfect. Hmm. Conference. That reminds me, I gotta look at the energy conference that we normally go to as the energy committee.
they just sent a thing today, did you get it? Yeah.
Those silly state of New Hampshire treasurers, they're just always there. You'd think at some point we would have paid them enough.
right.
It will never be enough.
And, yep, payroll.
Thank you. I'm all out of tricks.
I did have a question asked about, the work that was done on the extension road because of the bridge. What is it called? Help me.
Pleasant Street.
Pleasant Street. And that's Pleasant Street Extension, correct? Where we
You
did
mean
the
the-
ledge removal and stuff?
I think so.
The
Are
one,
you talking about the dirt road section down?
yes, that we did because, before your driveway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you remind, cause it's not, like I said, I had somebody ask me the question, so I said, well, I'll ask, cause I don't quite remember. Can you remind me exactly what we thought we were gonna gain by widening the first part? Cause it doesn't seem like anything's changed except, you know,
So the,
was it required by the state? No.
yeah, the reason for doing that work is because that's going to be the primary detour route.
And I understand that, yeah,
And especially when you're dealing with semi-trucks,
yeah.
site distances and that sort of thing was
But
the
it didn't-
primary reason for starting it all.
Yeah, I think what that was, the neighbor was concerned that
I-
it didn't seem to.
I don't
really-
know the,
And then it narrows right out anyways.
yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know whether there's supposed to be more in the coming years to make sure that the rest of it is wider, whether it was only for sight lines or not.
So who?
That
where-
was
Where did that decision, did we make
We
that
made the decision that, we made the decision that Emmett should work on the road to prepare it for being the major detour.
Okay, so there may
I
be more
don't know
sections to
that-
come if that's the case.
I don't know that, anybody said specifically what should or shouldn't happen in that
Okay.
process, or whether all of it's happened or not.
Okay,
So, we should,
And-
you should ask Emmett that at the department head next
okay,
time,
okay.
because he should be able to tell
Sometimes you get
what-
those questions and calls and I'm
Sure.
like,
Yeah.
oh God, I remember you saying something, but I guess,
Yeah.
and I drove up it and I'm like, oh, I don't
Yeah, it's,
know, why?
It's-
Why did the,
it's not what I expected, but it makes sense to me. So,
Doesn't, yeah, not, but anyways.
as long as you drive around the big rock that's there, right, Don?
It's
So-
not very pleasant.
so yes.
We're gonna rename it Unpleasant Street.
Well, that's the
So
unpleasant
there are no
part of Pleasant
motions
Street.
that are required.
I have
Well,
nothing.
there's one motion that's required.
So that was, I think, my next question. Do we require a non-public?
Oh, no,
No.
that was not the motion I was requiring.
Oh. You said you thought you had additional as well. Do you want to enter into non-public to discuss something, or?
Yeah, probably should,
Okay, and would that be reputation?
yes.
Okay. Would you like to make said motion?
Well, I like what you just said. I make said motion of what he just said.
All right, so I would move that we enter into non-public under reputation.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. For the purposes of recording, we will immediately adjourn coming out of non-public session. So the recording and streaming will cease now and will not be resumed, as there will be no more public session following.